All right, and we are live on the PHU Dynasty podcast. This is episode 71, and we have another doubleheader. We have a doubleheader of doubleheaders, Sean. Two
Just a
back-to-backers.
gluttons for punishment, man.
we love talking about random, bottom of the roster players for 20 minutes. It's one of our favorite things to do. And I'll tell you what, I know we already talked about him in a previous podcast, but Eric All is alive. Right, that's my favorite bottom of the roster player. That's not on my own team right now. Eric All.
He's active. He's practicing.
He's alive. He's playing. But I just had to get it out there because you heard it here first. I think he's a good player. I really believe. Anywho, we got two very interesting teams to talk about today, both in the playoff picture, in my opinion. For different routes to get to where they're at right now. But lots of great players to talk about this week. And should be a little bit more positivity. I feel like now that we're getting into kind of the playoff, true contenders, if you will, of the league. But we'll get more on that. But I do think, Sean, we need to start. One of the players involved here, or one of the owners involved here, will be talked about tonight. So let's talk about the trade that went down a little while ago in our league. We had the Chili Cheese Fries sending Ray Davis and Tyler Algier to the Lionheads, and the Lionheads are picking up Josh Downs in this trade. Oh, I'm sorry, the Chili Cheese Fries are picking up Josh Downs. Unless I have this backwards. I don't think I do.
No, yeah, Vince is getting Algier and Ray Davis.
Yeah, that's what I thought. Because the Algier pickup is, and we can start there with, having Bijan on the roster.
Makes sense.
A quality handcuff pickup there. And I do believe, Ray Davis is in line for some level of work this year. Depending on how big you think the split might be, seems like a pretty good guy to have on your bench to start the year, and then maybe throw him in towards the middle of the season and on if he starts getting more work. So I do like that side of the trade. And then, Josh Downs going over to Chile. I think Downs is a good player. Clearly talented player. You saw it when in limited action last year. He looked really good. Getting Anthony Richardson back. Just a lot of interesting options in the passing game here for Indianapolis. So what do you make of this trade, Sean?
It's funny when you put it in the context of the trade that happened before this one, because
true.
He traded away Pittman and he traded 4 Downs. So obviously it almost feels like there's just a straight up preference of player, regardless of like the capital you given and taken to get them. But it makes sense. Josh Downs outperformed Michael Pittman's rookie year in his rookie year.
Yeah.
And Pittman had not a lot of skill in that room. I think Nyheim Hines was the leading receiver the year he was.
Yeah, that's bad. that's pretty bad.
Downs did it with Gardner Minshew and Pittman playing, and he got hurt during the year too. So, and I don't think Pittman played all 16 games when he was a rookie. So, but just something to monitor, something to keep out there. Throw it out there.
Yeah, and I know Tibbs originally drafted Downs, so he gets him back now. I think he picked him in the second round in 2023, I want to say, and he was part of that. Actually, this is going back to, so he went from Vince, and then Vince trades him back to him basically. So he was part of the Kyler Murray deal at the time, involved with Zay Flowers. So that was that's a fun trade to go back and look at now. It was Kyler Murray, Josh Downs, Zay Flowers, and a third for Darren Waller, Prescott, James Conner, and Debo. So that's a lot to process. There's just lots of good players involved there. But obviously Waller falls off a cliff, and I think Connor's probably in his last true year of mega relevancy, I guess, if you will, at the running back position. So Debo and Prescott will be what's left there probably after this season. But getting Flowers, Downs, and Murray on that side of the deal seems pretty cool too. So not a terrible trade at all. But it's funny that he goes back to the team that drafted him. So anywho, I like the trade. I think it's a good trade for both teams. They kind of both get what they want. And for Vince's team, he gets the nice handcuff there with Algier. So let's start now with the Lauderdale Lionheads team review. So I do not have a super fancy graphic this week, but I do have these cute little banners here at the bottom. So the Lionheads are pretty much the Jeff Fisher in terms of record, right around the 500 mark for his career. But that being said, he is a 2013 champion, so there's he's been in the mix every single year. So there's lots of good things to say about this team for sure. 311 transactions, which is fifth, so like kind of right in the middle of the pack there too for transactions. Last year had a really rough go of the schedule. Had the hardest schedule despite putting up the third most points and missing the playoffs. So, just one of those, just chalk it up to, a crappy luck fantasy type season, not ideal. But, maybe that luck will turn around this year and, he'll find his way into the playoffs. It seems likely. So I'm willing to bet on the fact that he will make the playoffs this year. And we'll discuss that more towards the end. But, kind of right in the middle of the pack in terms of our, league's history and win-loss percentage and all that. So the Lionheads, I think they're ready to contend. I think 2013 championship, we're but 10 11 years here since that. I think it's time that this team really pushes for that championship, and I think we're gonna let's get right into it. Let's talk about these quarterbacks here. I think this is a pretty strong room. I think this is one of the deeper rooms, just balanced with age, youth, talent, perhaps not so talented, depending on how you look at it. Kyler Murray right at the top. He's an interesting name to talk about. Clearly, one of the better, all-around rushing quarterbacks, fantasy quarterbacks, since he's joined the league. Been a little bit up and down overall, depending on his situation. Lots of changing of schemes and coaches and all kinds of GMs, and it's been Call of Duty, all kinds of things with Kyler Murray. To finally level him out, kind of in this, what I believe to be a top 8 fantasy quarterback for this season. Bouncing back off that injury, where do you put Kyler Murray this year? And do you think he's the clear-cut starter on this team? Because I kind of do right now. Yeah,
I do. Yeah, I've got him at QB7 right now this year. I know, like, redrafting goes a little bit later than that, so he's a great value this year. I think he's bound for a bounce back. He's getting Marv. Not going to call him Marvin Jones. I'm just going to start calling him Marv so I don't screw it up anymore.
Maserati Marv.
Yeah.
Ashton Marvin.
So that offense should be much improved. The offensive line is pretty solid, so that should keep him up. The biggest thing for me with the quarterback room is you just clench your ass cheeks a little bit, like just looking at like the injury risks. Just
there's definitely
the two
something
guys. Yeah, the two guys coming off the Achilles and then Kyler just not being able to play a lot of football over the last couple of years. But I mean, if everybody's playing, wheels up, I'm good. This is a really good room.
Yeah, I mean, if Kyler plays, the 16-17 game schedule, he's going to be a top 10 quarterback. I don't think there's really any doubt about that. It's truly just a health thing for him. And then with Cousins, if he manages to, stay upright and not really, have any. He's never really had a big injury history to begin with. It was just kind of one of the freakier injuries of his career as well, I believe. So, I think Cousins obviously has tons of upside here too, in an offense that should be pretty damn good. Just depends on how things roll out to start the season. There might be some hiccups to start the season, with a new coordinator, new look pretty much entirely on the offense. So, I think it would be a good backup player. And then Rodgers, of course, I still think Rodgers has some pretty good upside. I just think his rushing is obviously not going to be a thing at all really anymore. Yep. So that kind of knocks him down for me a little bit, but I still think he's going to be fine as long as he's healthy as well. Do you think Cousins and Rodgers are both kind of in that like 10 to 15 range or higher or lower? Where do you think in there?
I've got them both in like the 20 to 25 range right now. I just would love to see them play like a few snaps first before and hopefully they'll probably. And Rodgers is full go, and Cousins I think just got cleared for contact, so they might play a little bit in the preseason. We'll see. But I mean, it's tough. There's a lot of good quarterbacks in the league, so I wouldn't be surprised if they both had multiple QB1 weeks throughout the year for sure, because they can both sling it and they're both very good at throwing touchdown passes, which will get you points.
Yeah, and now that we're 6 points, it's a big deal. And I'm definitely more concerned with Rodgers than Cousins. I think as far as just I feel like there's more to go wrong with Rodgers and the Jets. I don't know. It's just a
Because they're
hunch,
the
I
Jets,
guess.
or
I think it's just the history should tell you that something seems to always be a mishap always happens with the Jets at some point. And personality wise, I feel a little better about Kirk Cousins, that's for sure. Like there's
yeah,
something that could happen with the Jets at all
yeah.
times.
He just had his injury a lot later than Rodgers did. That's all. So I just worry about like
Yes,
him not
true.
being physically where Rodgers probably is at this point. And they're both older, so
I saw some stuff today on I think it was today or yesterday on Twitter where Rogers getting his foot stepped on by the centers and he's cussing people out, and you just never know with him. But I mean, really at the end of the day, he should be fine. But he's
yeah.
definitely like the one I'd probably be the most concerned with out of that trio. Bryce Young's an interesting name here. He really can't get a whole lot worse from last year as far as production, right? Like I mean that team was so
No, from
bad.
last year, no. I
He was the 23rd ranked quarterback somehow, but I think that was just the fact that he played all 16 games.
Well, Andy Dalton played a game last
Oh yeah,
year.
there you go. There you go.
That was the best quarterback performance for their team last year. They played Seattle, I think.
I love the hype pieces for Bryce Young 2 months ago on Sleeper. Bryce Young is doing fantastic in the team's new offense, according to Dave Canales. So this is a mini camp puff piece, so I love it. But I really don't think it could possibly be worse than last year. He threw 11 touchdowns, 10 picks, 2,800 yards in 16 games. That's just not going to do it.
I mean,
But there is something
he's
there.
just getting absolutely dragged by everybody, like fantasy wise. And like, I remember saying this, maybe we were doing a pod last year, but I remember saying like, he's not a bad quarterback. He just needs more help than other quarterbacks to be good.
Yeah, he needs a support
And
system.
he had the worst support system in the NFL last year.
I mean, it's undeniable. Yeah,
it was worse than Trevor Lawrence's rookie year, which is impressive.
It's tough to do. It's tough to do. I don't know. Like Trevor Lawrence's rookie year sucked real bad. it was really, really bad.
But he at least had like, was that the year they had signed? Was that the year they signed Kirk and like Zay Jones and everybody? Like that is significantly better, like weapons wise, compared to what Bryce Young had last year. That is like one of the worst offenses I had ever seen.
So his rookie year, Trevor Lawrence also finished 23rd. But listen to the difference in the stats. 3,600 yards, 12 touchdowns, 17 picks.
Yeah.
And then he also had 330 on the ground and 2 touchdowns. Now, I will say, mostly because he was running for his life last year, Bryce Young actually had 250 yards on the ground on 39 carries. So it's not like he's not mobile. Like he can make something happen on the ground.
He's just not going to pull away from anybody on the ground. Like he's going to run to the boundary for like 4 or 5 yards.
Right. And you're not going to see many QB sneaks or anything like that with a guy like Bryce Young. They have him listed at 204, but I don't buy that for 1 second.
Yeah, and that's just the ceiling that you're going to get. That's why, like I said before, like he needs the help. He needs a really good separator, like a Deontay Johnson, who is like, as far as like separation goes, like he is up there with like,
gotta be in the top 10.
He's in like the top 5. It's like Jefferson and like the Chases and like that, which is stupid because he's not near that tier of receiver just because of everything else that he can't do on the field. Like it's not the best hands.
There's a lot of variables he's dealt with for sure.
But just the way they talk about him, he's going to have like 9 to 10 targets a game this year in that offense.
I'd be shocked if he wasn't at least a wide receiver 3 based on targets. I mean, alone, yep. He's got to catch balls. Like even if he's dropping 50% of them, which I know we've talked about on this podcast before, like he's still going to have a zillion targets. So he should be fine. But
you add that and you add Brooks towards like the second half of the year where he can have a running back that can like do something with the ball in his hands after he makes the catch, which he hasn't had.
And Sanders too. We'll talk about him later. Sanders could be a decent little tight end as well. They literally had nothing at the position last year unless
you're talking about Miles Sanders first.
No, not that Sanders. Not that Sanders. Don't trust me. We're not talking. We'll get to him.
We're gonna have to talk about him tonight too. So strap in.
But I do think he's got more options this year, and it can't. And clearly, they upgraded on the offensive line as well, so that should help out Bryce Young quite a bit. Last guy, Michael Penix on the list. I think we're going to see a ton of Michael Penix in the preseason, which should be fun. Just to see kind of what he has to offer against the second and third stringers. So I think that'll be interesting. And Penix is a long-term play for sure here, but it's nice because he's got both the quarterbacks. So
if I would venture a guess, I'm going to say it's going to look really ugly in preseason because he plays like a statue, and he's going to be playing with second string offensive linemen. So,
and he loves to sling it, so he's going to hold the ball. So
it's going to be a lot of sacks.
Be a little bit of.
I think it's going to be a lot of sacks and turnovers, and a lot of think pieces about what they did with their top 10 pick after the preseason, which is going to be a pretty unfair.
Yeah, I mean, I still don't agree with
predicting the future over here.
Yes, we'll see. Hey, we got the hot takes episode, but anywho, so that's the quarterback room. I do feel good about this room. I think there's lots of options available. I think you could mix and match the matchups and whatnot, which some teams in this league cannot do on a week-to-week basis. So I think this is good. And there's a nice mixture of youth, quality veterans. I just think it's a well-constructed room. So I like it. Let's move on to the running backs. This is a strong unit, Sean. Bijan Robinson obviously at the top. Part of the massive trade last year to get him at the number 1 overall selection. Basically from my team, this Bijan, the usage last year was a disgrace, to be honest with you. It just doesn't make any sense. It's pretty much the number 1 reason I would fire Arthur Smith. I thought it was a disaster. 214 carries, 976 yards, 4 touchdowns, 58 catches on 86 targets, 487 yards and 4 touchdowns. I don't know how this guy wasn't the guy when you spend that high a draft capital. He, especially in a team without really a quarterback to speak of last year, how this guy wasn't used more blows my mind. Anyway, he finished running back 12 last year, despite his somewhat limited usage.
Honestly, weird. Yeah.
I mean, is there any, if he stays healthy and everything, is as planned this year, is there any way he's not in the top 5 running backs?
If I have the first pick in redraft, he's my first pick this year.
I mean, he was a stud every time he touched the ball. It feels like, when you watch a guy and it's just like, okay, if he has one opening, like he's taking this to the house. Like you can just see it. Like, and he'll create his own openings better than anybody I think I've ever really seen in the last, like, I can't remember, like 10 years at least.
You remember that game last year where it was in like Toy Story vision?
Yes, I do remember that. Yes.
Do you remember just him absolutely breaking a Toy Story character's ankles in real time? Because that's honestly the most impressive thing I saw last year.
I don't think I've seen anybody in the last decade break ankles like this guy does. Like I think there was like an overhead view of one of his runs. Like I don't know how the Falcons PR team did it, but they had like this overhead view somehow of that stadium, and it was so amazing to watch. Like nobody even touched him. Like if like an 8-man box and nobody touched him, it just doesn't make any sense. So I mean, yeah, I agree, Sean. I think he's probably in our redraft league, probably at least a top 3 pick.
I have him and McCaffrey as 1A, 1B. I'm just going off of the history.
They're so similar. I mean,
yeah, I'm going off of the history for me that like a player coming off of 400 touches is not going to have the same year. So I would go with Bijan first, but
I think I feel a little safer with Bijan because he's never really had any sort of nagging injury history. I mean, I think he had a couple of small things in college, but nothing ever crazy. And he's very little tread on the tires. He's 22. I just think this is set up for a monster year for Bijan. And of course, the Lionheads are all about that. And that's what they traded all the capital and picks that they did to get him. It makes perfect sense. In the
system, the offensive system that's going to be
should be awesome.
Just favors him perfectly. Yeah,
should be fantastic. Getting to the next guy on the list here, another excellent option here at the running back position, Jonathan Taylor. Very weird start to last year with all of his contract negotiations, and then of course the injury that he had been coming off of. So definitely not like the smoothest start to last year. Finished the season playing 10 games, 741 yards on the ground, 7 touchdowns. Not a whole lot going on in the receiving game, but that's not really what he's known for the most part. But did get 4.38 yards per carry on 169 carries. So not really anything super crazy, but he was also, nursing the injury pretty much all the way up until the start of that season, and even into the season he missed those, bunch of games as well. So, I mean, I'm betting on a bounce back for him. Personally, I feel good about him heading into this season. I mean, I think in most redraft leagues, he's probably going to end up in the first round, probably middle of the first round, I'd say. What do you think about that? Do you think he's kind of like a first round running back again?
I wouldn't have any problem going with Taylor after the top 3 are gone. I think that's perfectly fine. I mean,
it's just hard to find guys with this much share of the backfield as well. I mean, there is really no competition. Trey Sermon is not.
Well, his competition isn't from the running backs, which is
right.
Would be my next point. Is like, I've got him statted out currently as the rushing leader this year in the NFL. So I got him for like
a lot of yards,
300 carries, 1,500 yards currently. So
that'll do it.
And that's not the part that I'd be worried about. It's just a matter of like what Steichen calls at the goal line is going to really determine like his fate as far as like where he finishes this year. Like I could see maybe like they protect Richardson a little bit after last year. I could see them just going for it with him. Either way wouldn't surprise me. So I think that's going to have a lot to do with where he ends up. But I mean, it's a locked and loaded RB1.
Yeah, I mean, it's hard because he's had 2 years of kind of not a whole lot going on, but 2021 he had 1,800 yards and 18 touchdowns. I mean, he was the number 1 running back. He was number 4 the year before that as a rookie. He's a monster. Like when he's playing and healthy, he's an excellent running back. He's one of the best pure runners in the league. I remember I think I called him generational, whatever, and Alex gave me a lot of shit for it a long time ago before the draft. I don't know if he's living up to that, but he is a excellent running back, and I think he has like when he's healthy, he has a lot of Nick Chubb like qualities. So I really think if he's healthy, I am a believer, and I will be buying in again this year. And then obviously for this team, having Bijan and Taylor as your number 1 and 2 running back, both first round redraft running backs. I mean, could easily be the best 1-2 punch in this league. This year, I would not be surprised at all. So love Jonathan Taylor. Next guy on the list, Isaiah Pacheco, also part of the Bijan trade. Pacheco was awesome last year, and still to this day, I've never seen anybody run as angry as he does. Sean, it's so fun to watch. He truly is a fun running back.
Through the forest, man. It's just so angry.
He's mad at the ground, it seems like, and it is a pleasure to watch it. Pacheco
goes for his knees in a couple of years, but
yeah, that's the thing is like who knows how long this is truly sustainable, but we'll find out. But last year, 205 carries on 935 yards, 5.46 yards per carry, 7 touchdowns. He also had 50 targets in the receiving game, only 244 yards and 2 touchdowns there. So you put it all together, you're around 1,100 yards, 9 touchdowns. Obviously, as kind of a secondary piece of that Bijan trade to get, an RB17 finish is a pretty damn good finish, for a guy that wasn't really the centerpiece of that deal and pretty much a locked and loaded flex guy at the very least for this team. I feel really good about having him as my number 3 with the potential of putting him as your RB2 on any given week if, buys or injuries and whatnot. So, I mean, Pacheco, he's really not going to get a ton of changes this year. I don't think. I feel like it's gonna be a very similar type of workload for him, if not more. I just like the player. I like the offense. I like everything about it, really. So, do you think RB17 was his numbers last year? Do you think higher or lower than 17 maybe?
I've got him higher. He's in a glob of guys that are competing for like the last 2 top 10 spots in my RBs. So I think his volume's going to go up this year. I think the secret sauce, honestly, could be in the receiving game just because of the McKinnon exit and not really. I mean, it's Clyde and it's Deneric Prince behind him currently. So, and if you love rugby, I don't remember the guy's name, but he's also there.
Don't forget Carson Steele, Sean. I forgot the rugby guy's name. They also have Keontae Ingram and Imani Bailey on this roster, Sean.
So thank you. So clearing up my point, like there's just not a lot of competition there, and
not a lot going on.
That could just be a huge boon to him and his value this year, just because they're so random when they get to like the 5 yard line. They like you see a lot of receiving touchdowns from the backs in that area. You'll see Travis Kelce get the scoop passes. You'll see them just straight up run like a power gap. Like they'll do so many different things, and he'll be on the field. And I think that offense is going to be. I think we already talked about this with Mahomes last week, but that offense is, I think, just going to be much better this year.
Yeah, and then I think too, with better field stretching options than they had last year, should be less 8-man boxes, should be much lighter boxes. Not that they had stacked boxes to begin with, but should be a little easier sledding for him to maybe get back to that higher yards per carry that he had in his rookie season. So
and
I love him.
I don't know if I brought it up when we were talking about Mahomes last week, but the 12th easiest schedule in the NFL this year, according to Sharp, which for a Super Bowl winner is
it seems a little
ridiculous.
It seems a little interesting to say the least. I don't know how they got lucky there, but that worked out, I guess, for them scheduling wise. Also, too, I want to have you know, I'm just looking at Pacheco's player card here. I acquired Isaiah Pacheco from Dustin for a 3rd-round pick. And that was a 3rd-round, actually it was a 2024 3rd-round pick. So I wonder who that player turned into. I'm going to have to go back and look at the trade tree, which is a teaser for later. We have some trade tree stuff to talk about later. It's going to be fun. Next guy on the list, David Montgomery. Obviously taking that, power rushing role over last year for Jamal Williams. Frankly, doing it significantly more efficiently than Jamal Williams did. 13 touchdowns on the ground, 1,015 yards on 219 carries for an average of 4.63 yards per carry. Not much to say in the receiving game, but he finished at RB9 in 14 games, was missed 3 games too. So a monster season after a couple of kind of mediocre seasons with Chicago. I can't imagine much changes here other than probably just losing a few more carries perhaps to Gibbs, but not anything super significant. RB9 might be tough to re-attain, but it's possible.
Yeah, he's another guy that's in that glob of running backs for me that's in that like 9 to 15 range. And he is the bonus. He's the bonus of like having that contingent upside of if Gibbs misses any time, like he's probably getting 80% of the workload there. So, and that's great in that offense because on the complete other end of the spectrum from the Chiefs, you know what the Lions are going to do when they get to the goal line, and that's just pound the rock.
We're going to run it, and
really
we're not running it. We're going to throw it to Sam Laporta, basically, is their option. Yep. So, I mean, I love them. And I think these top 4 backs here for Vince, these are 4 of my favorite, just like overall players, really, at the position. Just watching games, I love all 4 of these guys. And I've always been a fan of Montgomery, too, even when he was back in the David Mopportunity days. I still thought he was a pretty solid back, too. So I like all 4 of these guys. And then I think those are your true, 4 mix and match options in the flexes. Whatever you want to do there. Obviously, Bijan and Jonathan Taylor are probably going to be locked and loaded, but lots of good flex options. And then talking about Ray Davis a little bit more, from the trade, I think Ray Davis was a nice little move for Vince as well, picking up a, somewhat of a upside back with potential for even more, overall workload if he can cut into James Cook's numbers. And of course, if James Cook goes down, he kind of is the guy at this point. I don't think there's much competition there really at all. So I really like that.
Yeah, I really like Davis coming into the draft. I thought maybe he would be a guy that would fall down and I could just kind of scoop him up like in value in like the 3rd, 4th round. Just as far as like fit goes, he's actually probably a better fit in that power gap offense for Buffalo than even I am blanking on Cook. It's probably a better fit than Cook.
I was looking something up. I wasn't backing up there.
Yeah, Cook is a lot more talented, but like Davis just kind of fits that really well. Like if he ends up in like that Latavius Murray role from last year, which would be pretty bad for anybody that is Cook, but it wouldn't surprise me. They're not going to
power back. He is a power back. Like he's not like what people think.
The Bills aren't going to take a almost 25-year-old running back so that he can sit. Like that's not what they're doing.
It's very unlikely. I mean, like you said, he'll turn 25 in November. I mean, and that was the big reason he fell in our draft. Like if he was a 22-year-old back, I would have taken him in the second round. But the fact that
he probably would have been a top 5 running back for me in this draft if he was like in the same age range.
Yeah. I mean, I'm looking at him, I mean, not really as a player, like style-wise, but he has some Jalen Warren qualities where Jalen Warren was an older rookie, kind of fell down, but everybody knew he was pretty talented. Eventually gets, a decent amount of work, but there's not really like that youth element to what you're trying to find in Dynasty. So that's kind of where he goes. But, for the Bills, they don't give a crap. They need somebody right now. And I think he's had plenty of carries over the course of his college career to the point where he's going to be coming in more like a veteran and doesn't have to learn the ropes as much. And I've heard he's been really good throughout training camp and OTAs and stuff already. So I have a hard time believing he's not going to be on the field, especially in that goal line, inside the 10 kind of area. So I think it's just a really good player to have as your number one guy on the bench, number 2 guy on the bench. For this team, it's a perfect fit. He doesn't need him right away, but if he turns into something, you got an excellent flex option. So I'm a big fan there. And then Algier too. Of course, we talk about Bijan. I think Algier goes back to his handcuff way, what he should be, probably the handcuff. I still think he's going to get a decent amount of touches, but it just depends on.
Yeah, I mean, anything above like 25%, I would be pretty surprised as far as like snap share goes for him this year. Just going into this offense that is moving over from LA to Atlanta, like they have such a heavy feature of one running back, and I don't see why they wouldn't do that here. Even though I do like Algier, but it just makes sense.
I mean, Algier was not really efficient at all last year anyway. I mean, he was very good his rookie year, but definitely did not have the same level of production behind the same line that Bijan ran by and had almost a yard extra per carry. So
I love
very different running backs.
I love the idea of bringing Algier in like the middle of like the third quarter when he hasn't really done much yet, and just beating up a defensive line that like has.
Oh yeah, I think he'd be a great closer, honestly. Like if they're in positive game scripts this year, if you can get ahead early or whatever, and then rest up Bijan a little bit towards the end of the game, I think it's a great overall fit if that's the route they want to go. So I think it's another nice move by Vince here to kind of just shore up his team and protect against injury. I thought it was really good. And then finishing out this running back room, not so much positive here at the end, perhaps, but Miles Sanders, man, what a fall from what people might have thought he was going to be last year, like myself in redraft. He completely face planted. Frankly, the team was terrible. So, I mean, it's the whole team was awful, but Miles Sanders was very bad. He had 129 carries, 432 yards, which is an average of 3.35 and only 1 touchdown for the entire season, coming off a season where he had 1,200 yards and 11 touchdowns with the Eagles the year before. So what happened, Sean? Tell me what happened.
He's just not that good, to be honest. Like I don't know what to tell you.
I don't think he's good, and I don't think the team was good. So I think that's just a double whammy.
That's a double negative, which in this case does not turn into a positive.
No.
It should be said that he was running with the ones today in a training camp. So
I did see that.
We'll see. Like they're financially obligated to him, so like I don't know I honestly haven't looked at the financials of like what it would take to get rid of him, but I imagine it's probably not worth it. So he's probably going to be on the team.
Yeah, let's look at I'm curious on this because.
And I don't know if that means that like that makes like Chuba the one that's on the roster bubble, or like they just keep all 3 because Chuba's probably pretty cheap. But
yeah, so they basically he said $10 million cap hit this year. So you basically dead cap. So yeah, so if they cut him right now, it'd be 10 mil. they can cut him next year and only eat 2.9 mil. So he's probably gone
He's
next
on the
year.
team this year, so
Yeah.
you keep him, and if like best case scenario, like he has like a flash early in the season, and they probably can't trade him, but maybe you get like a start out of him at best, like in the first few weeks of the year before Brooks is like ready to roll. I don't know.
That's another point too. Is they're not going to have Brooks for I think a minimum of 4 games, no matter what.
Yeah.
So you might as well keep him on the roster. Have Chuba and him. They're not horrible, horrific options. I could argue that Sanders might be at this point, but Chuba's fine last year in that backup role, so he should be fine to start the season. And I think Sanders is just a shoo-in to be an early cut next year. Before the start of training camps and all that and stuff next year. I don't see him being on this team. So,
Yep.
And then DeMarcado, I gotta be honest with you, I don't even know what team he's on right now. I don't even think he's still in Arizona. Okay.
Still in Arizona. So he's buried under the rookie and
very buried.
Yeah.
And Michael Carter's also on this team now too, so that feels probably like that's going to be their 3. And DJ Dallas, also remember he signed that ridiculous contract as well.
Oh yeah, he's probably getting cut then.
Somebody's getting cut here.
Unless he's good on special teams.
He's also going to be a 26-year-old sophomore, so very interesting. So that's probably too much talk on him already.
You said you got Dustin's 3rd round pick for this year?
It said Dustin, or it said a 2024 3rd round pick, and it was team 3. So I assume. Well, I don't think that matters too much. I was wondering if that was like draft position or not, but I wonder who it was.
I thought you said it was from Dustin. That's why I was.
I think it is from Dustin.
You traded it to me, and I took Drake May. If that's what it was.
So it's gonna end. So it's Drake May for Isaiah Pacheco in hindsight. Very interesting.
Not for me, but yeah.
Yeah, just total overall.
And watching him throw the ball, I like it.
He looks pretty interesting here in these opening weeks at camp. I'm as a Patriot receiver holder, I'm a fan. So I'd like to see more of this.
Speaking of receivers.
Yes, receivers. We got a lot of guys here to talk about. A lot of players I really like. Some guys I'm not really a fan of. But this is an interesting room, Sean. Obviously the core of this team is built through the running backs. But the receivers here, I don't think there's one true stud guy right now. In years past, it was easy to say Cooper Kupp was. But I don't think there is that true number one. But that being said, there's a lot of really good options that, week to week might be kind of tough to pick who's going to have the big weeks, flex wise. But I like a lot of these guys. So let's start right at the top there with Cooper Kupp. Kind of an interesting development last year with Puka Nacua, coming out of nowhere, having the best rookie season of all time at receiver. Cooper Kupp obviously being injured for a decent amount of time. Where does Cooper Kupp land this year in this offense? He was, let me give you the numbers last year. He had 59 catches, 737 yards, 5 touchdowns in 12 games. The year before that, he only played 9 games, finished as wide receiver 23, 812 yards and 6 touchdowns. So he basically had that giant, almost 2,000 yard, 16 touchdown year. Number one wide receiver in 2021, and progressively has gotten worse one way or another through injuries or whatever else. So, where does he land this year? Because I feel like it's got to be somewhere in between those 2 years.
Yeah, I got him right in the early to mid 20s as far as receivers go. I got him somewhere around 1,050 yards and 8 touchdowns this year. I think it's probably a safe spot for him. It wouldn't surprise me at all if he beats those numbers just because of what he's done in the past. But it's so tough to predict. You've got Puka there now too. That's going to take a lot, really shoulder a lot of the burden. So that might help him just stay on the field now. We'll see. He's scary.
It's all about injury for me.
Yeah, it is. He's going to be one of those make or break players in redraft leagues this year for sure. Where he's probably going to fall behind his ADP, and whoever takes him is going to either love it or be like, "Oh, this is why he fell."
Yeah. let's look back at 2019. I believe this is when Robert Woods had a solid year, I want to say. He finished with 1,100 yards and 10 touchdowns. Like that kind of seems in my range of like if he
Yeah.
finishes at the top
Yeah.
end of his range, that's what I would be looking for. 120-ish targets, something like that. And frankly, the Rams don't have shit for other options in this offense. It's Puka, it's Cooper Kupp, and I don't see any other legitimate real threat on this team other than Kyron Williams, and he's not even a receiver. There is no other receivers on this team at this point.
The absolute disrespect of Demarcus Robinson right now is.
I think Jordan Whittington is going to be the wide receiver 3 on most snaps for blocking purposes, and I'll stand by that, Sean. He's this Ben Skowronek. I'm here for it. I don't know, man. I think this offense is obviously I think they added Parkinson at the tight end position, so I feel like
we got Davis Allen from the rookie from last year, and then Higbee is still recovering from his absolutely mangled knee in the playoffs.
I mean, so we got this report on Davis Allen saying that he is supposed to be a significant part of the offense this year, according to somebody from The Athletic. So I don't know.
According to Sean McVay, Mr. Liar, pants on fire.
4 days ago. So Davis Allen's an interesting idea. I mean, I like him.
Oh, he had a pretty good game in the opportunity that he had last year. I will say that. So
yeah, I don't think he can block at all, but I don't think they care either. They just need receivers. All right. Anywho, enough of Davis Allen talk on the pod today. I didn't think that was going to happen. Zay Flowers. This is a good young player, Sean. I just don't have a lot of negative things to say about Zay Flowers. Like I didn't like mega love him coming into the draft last year. I was always like a reasonable, fan of him, but I wasn't like jumping for joy, trying to draft this guy. But had a really good rookie year. Finished wide receiver 30, 77 catches, 858 yards, 5 touchdowns. Kind of really shined towards the end of the year, I believe, too.
Playoffs.
Yeah, playoffs specifically, but then the last 4 to 5 weeks of the season, he had an 18 point, 14, 13, and a 17. So, I mean, he got better as the season went on, which is always a good sign. He seems to be doing really well in camp, too, from what I've been seeing on Twitter and whatnot. So, I mean, I'm a fan of him taking another leap this year. I think he's at least an 1,000-yard receiver this year after finishing with 858 last year, only on 108 targets, too. Where do you kind of slot him? I'm interested to see where you think. Do you think Rashad Bateman's the wide receiver 2 here, Sean? Still, I don't know what's going on in this offense.
In Baltimore, most definitely, but because they don't really. I mean, he's battling Nelson Aguilar, who is
Devontae Walker.
Devontae Walker sucks.
He didn't even play a snap.
He'll be. I live in Raleigh. I've seen.
No, trust me, Sean. I've talked ad nauseum on this podcast about his inability to catch the football. But
him being the only person that was even trusted to get the ball thrown to him by Drake May last year gave me all I needed to know about how awful the team was around Drake May last year. But going back to Flowers, like this is one of the players that just feels so safe to like really project and just an improvement and an increase in productivity. Like him and Cooper Kupp are right back to back in like the early 20s for me. So I think like going from wide receiver 30 to like high 20s just kind of makes sense.
Yeah, just a natural progression.
We'll see. Like it wouldn't shock me if like Mark Andrews led the team in targets, but I think they're going to be pretty close, and they should both be, I don't know, probably like the 120s. I'd imagine for like targets.
Yeah.
So what did I give him in targets actually?
He had 108 last year.
So I set it out 122. So
all right.
And he got more efficient as the year went on last year. I know like the first like few weeks of the season, it was a lot of designed like at the line of scrimmage stuff. And I think that had a lot to do with Lamar getting comfortable in the offense just as much as it was him being a rookie. And now we're coming into year 2 off of already an MVP season in the first year in an offense last year for Lamar. So I can't imagine he's going to be anything lower than like a mid-20s wide receiver this year in fantasy.
Yeah, I mean, just based on target share alone, like there's just not a lot of other options in this offense. I mean, Nelson Aguilar. Like there's just nobody. Well, if you have Nelson Aguilar on your team and he's playing, that's usually not good. Not a big fan of that. But I mean, the only like detractor I think I can really say for like Zay Flowers is like I'm just not sure that he is like a true number one. Like I feel like he would be best suited as like a high end 2 on an offense.
And
But
that is probably what he is in their offense, just with Andrews there.
I mean, yeah, that's true. I mean, Andrews is the focal point of, I mean, literally for almost his entire career. So, I mean, I could see, him just being that, he's basically playing the Hollywood Brown role from a long time ago when it was basically the deep shots, the manufactured touches, the screens. And that's fine. You could do plenty with that. But, there was only a few games this last year where he had high target numbers and the rest were like 4, 5, 3, 1. So, maybe it'll be more consistent this year as a sophomore, and he'll improve. But yeah, I wonder if there's like a little bit of a cap on like an elite upside here, and that's not a bad thing at all. I mean, I don't even think Vince drafted him thinking that there was elite upside. Or I'm sorry, Adam actually drafted him. He's part of the trade, but I don't think anybody was expecting elite upside here. And speaking of a guy that probably doesn't have elite upside is Terry McLaurin. He's the model of consistency at the wide receiver 2 to 3 range, if you will, every year. I've always been a Scary Terry supporter, Sean. I feel like this year is probably going to be a lot of the same. I mean, I just don't see. I mean, maybe he has a little bit more of a, like a back to last season. 2022, he finished wide receiver 14. Like that's probably his cap, I think I would say, his ceiling. But
I just think there's a lot of inconsistency coming up this year. I think is probably the best way to describe how I kind of project Terry. This offense is going to be very much a vertical spread and let the quarterback cook with deep balls and running the ball is kind of how I'm envisioning how this is going to go. And then the running game should be pretty solid, just given what like past from the OC. But I don't see a lot of touchdown passes. I think that's going to be the cap. I still have Terry over 1,000 yards this year, which with a rookie quarterback is impressive. But I don't see him. If he scored more than 5 touchdowns this year, I'd be pretty surprised.
So to kind of back that up, Sean, here's his touchdown numbers for his career starting in 2019. 7, 4, 5, 5, 4. So, yeah. I mean, just right on par. And his yardage wise, he's basically 1,100 yards every single year. Last year's a little bit lower, but
I would say
he's the easiest guy to project like numbers wise, because he's done it for 5 straight seasons in almost the exact same fashion. Like I just can't see.
This is one of those players where the disconnect between fantasy and real life playing football is just so wide. It's so wide because he's so good.
He's a great player. Like if you just watch him play, you're like, oh shit, this guy's good. But it's so week to week inconsistent. But here's the thing: is that if anytime they ever give him like a jump ball or some crazy play he's got to make, he almost always makes it. Which is just like they just need a guy. And maybe Jaden Daniels is that guy that kind of unlocks that next level for him. He's only 28. It's not like he's like 30 or 31. Mm-hmm. He's in that, Godwin range of, kind of player at this point. But like, is there another level to his game with a rookie quarterback that's got a bigger arm that likes to chuck it down the field? Like maybe there is. I just don't know. I'd be, if I had to bet, obviously I'm going to bet on the 1,100 yards and 5 touchdowns probably, but there's a chance he could go higher. I mean, it's not like it's out of the question.
And this is biased because I don't like the Commanders that much, but just like hoping it all just kind of blows up and he demands a trade and he goes to play with like a Herbert.
Like nobody's rooting for him more than me. Like I am rooting for Scary Terry to not be in the Commanders anymore. Like, just please give him a quarterback.
This is going to be his 12th or 13th quarterback that he's played with already.
That is
in his career. It's just stupid, man.
I mean, this is going to be his 6th year.
And I would say the best quarterback that's been on the team with him at the same time is probably Jacoby Brissett, and he didn't even play.
I mean, that's just horrific, dude.
Sam Howell got sent out to freaking pasture. And did you
And I like Sam Howell.
Did you see the report on Sam Howell today? Oh
I did
God.
not. Was it fun?
Oh no, it's bad.
Oh
He's
no.
he's seeing ghosts.
No.
Yeah.
He got Darnold in.
They're saying he's missing like routine throws consistently.
Oh
like,
no.
Oh no.
He's toast. It was a good run. At least I can cut him in Galactic, maybe.
Yeah,
That's tough.
It's tough out here. He's
That
competing for the backup job, is what.
Yikes, that's not good.
And I can't remember who the third string quarterback was in Seattle.
If you're competing for the backup job, fantasy wise, you might as well just be toast, dude. It's over.
It's tough out here.
It is tough out here. That is brutal.
Should we talk about Christian Kirk?
We should talk about Christian Kirk, but I do want to just continue to say I like Scary Terry, and I want to see.
I like Terry when he's scary too.
I like any Terry, any version of Terry McLaurin. All right, Christian Kirk. Another solid year last year as well. I've never loved Christian Kirk. I obviously that giant extension always like threw me off with him. But last year he did have some injuries. I think he missed like 5 games last year. Finished the year with 787 yards, 3 touchdowns on 85 targets. So, not a good year overall for fantasy. He was 47th for the wide receiver position. The year before he was 11. This year he's going to get some target competition with a rookie, and then of course with Gabe Davis that's brought in, but they don't really play the same position. He's the slot guy there. I have a hard time projecting him this year. I feel like somewhere in the 900, 1,000 yard range seems in the possibility, maybe.
He's in the same tier as Flowers and Cup for me.
Okay.
So I've got him.
You have him a lot higher.
At 1,148 yards and 6 touchdowns.
So that'd be a career year for him, Sean.
I think he's pretty easily the number 1 target on this team. I mean, he was before he got hurt, and it was just a lost year. I don't see a rookie in Gabe Davis really taking away any of his target share when Calvin Ridley was on the team last year, and he was still a better receiver than Calvin Ridley was.
Yeah. And Calvin's always been an outside guy too anyway. I mean, I think Kirk is truly a slot guy. I mean, that's where he cooks. So,
yep.
I mean, and with Ingram being there, I mean, that's like really the only other competition over the middle of the field for the most part. But I don't know. I
just absolutely tailspin once he got hurt, and Trevor Lawrence was hurt. Like it imploded. It was bad.
I actually like Parker Washington, but he's not much of a threat at all. So, I mean, not this year at least. But anywho, I mean, yeah, I think just, for this team, having him as your wide receiver 3-4 with him and McLaurin is a good 3-4 for sure. He's a quality flex play probably at the very least. So I'm a fan of that. And I think there's, some level of upside because, I mean, if you're saying if you're thinking like 1148, that it would be a career year from him yardage wise. And that year he finished with 133 targets. Holy shit. In 2022. So that's a lot of targets, 8 touchdowns as well. So he could be that guy over the middle, fighting for those Evan Ingram over the middle targets. So I like it. Dontavian Wicks, Sean. I like Dontavian Wicks.
I'm on us and the entire internet, baby.
I know. And it sucked because like I thought I was like cool liking him, and then everybody else liked him. I was like, oh no, everybody else likes him too. I'm not going to get him for a value in anything.
And then everybody saw the new, what's the new fad stat this offseason? It was like first downs per route run.
No, I didn't even
like
see
that.
One
it's like a new advanced analytic, and he was like top 10 in the NFL last year.
Dude, and he's pretty good. He's pretty good.
He's really good. It's insane. Like I think him and Reed are the 2 best receivers on this team, and like they're probably going to get the 3rd and 4th most targets.
I think like the top 4 on this team with like they're all so different too. Like Wicks is like a true, like to me he's like the prototype 1 possession guy, and then you have like the field stretcher Watson, and then you have the gadget guy Reed, and then you got Dobbs who's basically Marvin Jones reincarnated. So it's like they have a little of everything. Like it truly is an incredible room.
I will say I think Reed is more than a gadget guy, but
Well, I do.
I
Yeah,
think
he was last year. Let me put
he
it that
got
way.
pushed into that role because they just have so many guys.
Yeah, they
And
just
like,
didn't need him last year. Like,
yeah,
it's like, okay, how do we get this guy the ball? He's like the other end of the Laviska Chenault, where it's like, okay, this guy actually has to get the ball. Like, we're not just forcing him the ball. Like,
right.
we need to get him the
Like,
ball.
this isn't an actual role in our offense, but we're going to create it because he needs the ball.
And he was good. Like, I just like all the players on this team. Like, even going into the tight end room and the running backs, like, I just like the players. Like, I think the Packers are doing a hell of a job on offense, and obviously they paid Jordan Love stupid money.
This was
So
probably going to be one of my hot takes, but I'll come up with other ones because I love coming up with hot takes. But I think I'm going to go with the Chiefs over the Packers in the Super Bowl this year.
oh wow, okay, Packers Super Bowl berth. You heard
I
it
think
here
that's where
first.
I'm at right now.
I mean, I gotta tell you, they just look really good offensively, and every time I look at their receiver room, like the top 4 guys or whatever on paper, it reminds me of like when I play like Madden or something like that, and I'm like doing in the 4th year of my franchise with all these receivers I drafted high because I just love throwing to receivers in that game, and I'm like, oh, I can't get them all the ball. What do I got to do now? I got to pick one guy to make the Pro Bowl. Not 4 guys can't make the Pro Bowl. So
on a side note, did you see what Puka's rating was in Madden?
I did not know.
Came out today. They gave him an 84.
Oh my! See, this is why we don't buy Madden anymore, Sean.
It's so dumb.
We don't buy that.
Anyway,
God. At least college football is good. I mean, that's been fun. At least way more fun than Madden has ever been in the last 5 years. That's for sure. So, anywho, yes, Dontavian Wicks. I'm a fan. I like fantasy wise. It's really hard to project any of these guys. I mean, I truly don't know. I really don't think anybody knows. I feel like it's probably going to end up being a week to week thing, more likely than not. But
I will tell you, dude. I think Watkins is my highest rated Packer receiver, and I've got him at
Ian Watson.
Damn it! I have it written wrong on here. I really got to change that.
I think you did it like 2 podcasts ago too.
I did. So I never changed it. Just fuck that guy.
He sucked anyway.
Fuck him in particular. And I've got him at 41. But I don't dislike any of them. It's just
like he finished his wide receiver 53 last year on 580 yards and 4 touchdowns. So it's like. Yeah. And he was cut by Alex Morales in July last year. Oh, no. Alex could really use a wide receiver 4 right now, too.
He could use a wide receiver anything.
You hate to
literally anything.
He drafted him in the waiver draft and just cut him. Interesting. Yeah, Wicks, dude, I remember seeing like some pretty crazy advanced metrics from him coming out of Virginia, and then I watched the tape. I was like, oh shit, this guy's actually like kind of good. And then he went to the Packers. So I was like, all right, shit, he's buried, so I'm not going to draft him. And then it doesn't matter that he's buried because he still is too good that he still had to get touches. So I like him. I think he's going to improve.
This upcoming season, I'm going to deep dive good receivers on not good offensive college teams and just like see, because I remember when DJ Moore was coming out of Maryland, his quarterback situation was one of the worst for a receiver.
It knocks him down a lot.
It knocks them down. And I think and it's not surprising that a team like the Packers can pick up on these things just because they're so good at drafting. It's like them and the Steelers drafting these wide receivers day 2 and day 3, like finding the value. So I might do that this next offseason. See what I come up with because Virginia.
Let's have a Dyna sidebar real quick. A Dyna podcast sidebar. I'm looking at my list from this past year. My wide receiver rankings. Like, who were the shit quarterbacks in this list? Maybe we can identify the next starters. So we have Marvin, Malik, Rome, Brian Thomas, Troy Franklin, Devontae Walker, Keon Coleman. Could be one.
Yeah.
That's a good one. Johnny Wilson. Xavier Legette.
On a funnier level, Marv is probably on that list too because he didn't have a good quarterback. But
yeah, he was.
He's already elite.
I don't know if we can call him like that sleeper or whatever.
Anyway,
Adonai Mitchell, Xavier Legette. Worthy is a good one. He's got good. I'm trying to there's not one that like totally sticks out as like a crap quarterback.
It's hard to say Keon because his quarterback got drafted, but I don't think he's a draftable quarterback in the NFL. But apparently the Jets.
What about Richard Pearsall? That kind of fits.
Yeah.
I don't know much about Florida's quarterback situation, but I thought he was the problem last year based on the tape I watched.
It's not good.
He looked horrible.
I mean, if you
Maybe
see
it's
his
Ricky
highlight
Pearson.
catches, he's making catches that he has to. It's not like he's
Dude,
he's
and he was getting
flashy.
fucking smoked too. Like
Yeah.
every time he got a catch, he was getting absolutely. He get the Chris Olave treatment, just getting crushed out there. So maybe it's Ricky Pearsall, Justin. You don't want to hold on to him. All right, next on the list, Demario Pop Douglas. We talked a little bit about some of these receivers for the Patriots last time on the podcast, but Pop Douglas, to me, if you watch anything on social media or any tape, he is the most talented Patriots receiver right now in terms of route running, speed, separation. He will be the starting slot guy. Like I'd be very, very surprised if somebody took that role from him to start the year and to finish the year. Frankly, he's one of their best options. So it's kind of hard to project him fantasy wise, though, based on just the offense as a whole. I don't really know where I land on him, to be honest with you. I don't have him in a lot of leagues or anything, so I haven't really put a ton of research into him.
I statted out the Patriots before like all the offseason buzz for him came in, so probably need to redo the Patriots anyway. And just from other offseason stuff, I would be surprised if he didn't lead the team in catches this year. I feel like that's like a lock. Probably like in like the 70 to 80 range in catches this year. Possession guy out of the slot. I think that feels pretty safe.
It seems right to me. I mean, he had 78 targets last year in 14 games, 500 yards, no touchdowns. But I mean, the offense was a disaster last year. So
better quarterback situation. I know he seems like he's pretty well liked by both quarterbacks. So I'm not doesn't seem too concerning if he goes from one to the other to me. So I like him. I think there's definitely like a ceiling with a player that is like that playing out of the slot. I don't think you're never going to get a week winning week, I don't think, from him, but you're going to get like a solid amount of points, especially through like a bye week and stuff that are the little things that help you out.
Yeah. And like for this team too, he's got a couple really good running backs to put in his flex as well, with Montgomery, Pacheco. So, some combination of Christian Kirk, Dontavian Wicks, Demario Douglas seems like the flex rotation perhaps on this team, which is very good because I think all three of those guys, they all have very high, upside week to week, depending on, what the target numbers look. Very best ball-y kind of guys. I think him and Wicks, honestly, are pretty good fits for that last flex spot on this team. So, and then Kirk, of course, is going to be in the mix there too. So I like that a lot for Vince's team. Jermaine Burton is the next guy I have listed down on here. Burton, we talked about him a lot on the draft podcast, how everybody that I have followed or anybody that even watches any film knows that he's a good receiver. It's just the fact of, can he stay on the field with his off the field antics? Is there something, coaching wise that he, can't handle? What is the issue with him? Everything I've seen out of Bengals camp so far seems that he's been awesome. So, I mean, I guess right now you have to just ride with it as long as it lasts until he's a jackass or something. But I don't know.
I think he's going to be relevant this year. I think he'll probably push Chase into the slot, and then they're just going to have him and Higgins on the outside when he's on the field. And you're not going to send a second person to him. And he was elite on nines and digs in college. And if you're only getting one-on-one every time, I don't see how he's not successful in his rookie year. As long as he doesn't continue to be a shithead, which has been a problem. But I will say, he is being taken under TJ Hushmanzada's wing in Cincinnati. He was with him through the draft process. So that's interesting.
The guy he needs. That is the guy he needs. And frankly, if you just watch the tape of him and Tyler Boyd, when he was playing at Pitt, they do have a very similar type of game. So I think he's a guy you can play inside or outside, and he's tough too. When he's making catches, it's catches in traffic. He doesn't drop any passes. He is an ideal fit for this offense.
He's I want to say he's 6 foot, like 190, but he plays
Pretty much, yeah.
plays a lot bigger than that. It's like very Hopkins like when you think like, oh, just based off of like, okay, Hopkins just goes up and gets it, but Hopkins is the same size. Like he's 6
Yeah,
foot.
he's really not that big. Like he just looks big for some reason,
But
and his dreads.
we'll say that's where the comparisons stop.
Yeah, I don't know if we want to go quite that far, but I will say like this is the one pick, or there's obviously more, but this is one pick in the draft from this year. He's picked at 3.3. I think this could be a huge boom pick as early as next year if Higgins were to leave.
He's gone.
I mean, it seems like he's gone based on everything I can tell.
Yeah.
So I think he is going to be in line for a much bigger role next year. And this year you might get something out of him too. So I'm a fan. And of course, like you said last podcast, Higgins is always hurt. So there's a natural chance for him to be involved in some way. So next up is DJ Chark. I got to tell you, Sean, I'm not a DJ Chark guy.
Yeah, he's not good, but he's a starter.
He is a starter.
Currently.
And it's not Quentin Johnson, I'll tell you that.
That guy really.
See that drop he had the other day? Again? I think it was today, actually. Today he had one of the worst drops I've ever seen.
Yeah, it was right in the breadbasket, man.
It was like the most fucking perfect pass I've
ever seen. It was one of these, too.
It was right in his hands.
It wasn't even like it wasn't even like it went through his hands, like he had it, and he's like, well,
it's just like, here, you have it. It's like, I don't want it anymore. Right, the bread's too hot. I got to give it to you. Like, it's like, what are we doing? Like, anywho, it's getting frustrating to watch now. Like, I think I have, you know how like in Twitter you can like restrict certain words. I think I'm going to restrict Quentin Johnson. I just don't even want to see it anymore. Just get it off my timeline. Anywho, DJ Chark is a starter for now, in some capacity. I think we both assume Lad McConkey and Palmer are like the guys in this offense at the receiver position.
I keep hearing a term this offseason, just like from research and listening to other pods and stuff. And sacrificial X receiver is something I keep hearing.
Ooh, sacrificial X receiver.
And DJ Chark is just.
So what you're saying is sacrificial X receiver is like Alec Pierce is the role, right? Yep. So it's just you run him straight, get his cardio in. DJ Chark is great at that.
Because you know what Harbaugh would love? 10-on-10 football instead of 11-on-11 football with his offensive
he absolutely would.
DJ Chark is going to be running 9s until he can't run anymore.
All right, so for the podcast viewers out there, we have a comment. Hold on. Oh, hey, look, Jonah from the other league is watching. Sweet Jonah. Let's see here. This is going back to the Terry McLaurin take on under 4.5 touchdowns for Terry this season.
I don't want to bet against Terry though.
I know it's hard to bet against Terry.
Don't make me do that.
But man, it could be under 4.
It's not even a bet against him. It's how many touchdowns are you expecting from a rookie quarterback that runs? It's a cap ceiling. I think I had him at like 17 or 18 touchdown passes this year, but he's still like where do I have Jaden Daniels finishing this year?
I think Stroud just broke everybody's minds last year. It's like everybody's like, oh yeah, all the rookies are going to go for 5,000.
Well, that's
like, no, they're not.
Hold on. Let me go to 4-point scoring because that's where he makes his money.
Anyway, while you're looking that up. Oh, sorry.
I've got Jaden Daniels in 4-point scoring. I've got him at QB 13 this year. With like.
Hold on a second, Sean. I just found. I'm gonna put this in another chat bubble just so you can see it. There's a player on this team, a receiver for the Chargers. That's name is. Please hold. Praise Olodaki? Praise Olodaki. I pray that this guy gets on the field because I want to see more of this guy. That's awesome.
The Chargers have a very long list of random ass receivers trying to make that team.
They've always had great names on this team, by the way. Remember the Legadou Nane discussion?
Legadou Nane is great.
I mean, they've always had awesome ones. Anywho, what I was saying before we went back to Terry was that now that we know that sacrificial X receiver exists, and this league has a long history of having random ass receivers on rosters, send in your favorite, sacrificial X receiver. Text me it, and we'll say it on future podcasts. I just want to name like at least one every single podcast from here on out, because like I can think of 50 off the top of my head, like that I would just love to just rattle off. So I'm not going to say them all, but I will let you guys have your, put in the comments, send it to me, whatever you want to do. I want to hear your sacrificial X receiver. Because like the first one, he's not really sacrificial, but like he's just born to be an X receiver that does nothing. Mac Hollins, right? He's like the ultimate, just like, oh, here he is. He's out here and we're never going to throw him the ball, but he looks cool and he never does anything. So that's, send in your favorites. All right, next on the list, Darius Slayton. Not really a sacrificial X receiver, but plays the X position. I always thought he was better than anything.
I've got nothing bad to say about Darius Slayton.
He is in the Terry category for me. I love Darius Slayton. He just doesn't do anything.
I mean, not talent wise, but just like
it's not his problem though. It's never his problem. It's like he feels like he should be on Justin's team, if we're being honest.
He was the leading receiver for the Giants 2 out of the last 3 years. Maybe it was a couple. That was a stat a couple of years ago. But like, he led the team in receiving. He was just the disrespect. Like he did, like led the team in receiving, and then like he was on like the roster bubble the next year.
I mean, I truly believe they've never had an offensive line to block long enough to allow for his downfield passes to develop. So I think that has a lot to do with it.
And this is probably the best offensive line they've had in like 5 years, probably longer than that.
It should be good. I mean, they invested a lot of money into it. They put resources into it. They should be better. I mean, if you're watching the Hard Knocks, you know that was one of their big offseason things. So, I mean, for fantasy, I don't know. He's never finished higher than wide receiver 33, which was his rookie year. The last year he was 44, 51, 105, 56. I mean, he's a reserve player at this point too now, with all the bodies that they have in this room at this point. So, I mean, I feel he's going to battle with Jalen Hyatt most likely for that, field stretching role. And I don't know. I feel like he's not much of a fantasy factor anymore at this point. But
nope.
We love the player though.
What's that guy?
Another field stretcher, Trey Palmer. It seems like he's losing the third receiver battle. It doesn't seem like it's working out for him right now.
He got passed real quick in training camp.
Jalen McMillan, if you follow any sort of Buccaneers, anything on social media, whatever, Peter Report thinks he's truly the second coming. Like they love him. Everybody's raving about him.
I love everything I'm hearing.
I mean, obviously this is great for your team, but Trey Palmer, I think is just going to turn into the field stretching for, just Darius Slayton light, even if you want to say it that, I guess maybe. Maybe
a Trey Tucker light, even.
Hey, I like Trey Tucker. What's the thing is I didn't hate Trey Palmer either. I liked him. I thought he was a decent player. He has some moments last year for sure. At this point, I can't be too excited about Trey Palmer. Already buried, and not a whole lot of upside. So I won't spend too much time there. But I do think he's a talented player and would be a good 4, just to have on your team. So, and in real life. So next is Ryan Flournoy. This is one of the late draft picks by the Cowboys. I think he was a 7th rounder, Sean, if I'm not familiar. I gotta remember.
Yeah, it sounds right. It's 6th or 7th. It's just a lawn dart. See what you can get. See if it's a team. Because there's really not much outside of CD.
I mean, it seems like every year somebody's looking for that third Cowboys receiver to do something, and it usually doesn't happen. Whether it be Tolbert last year. I remember I had Dennis Houston rostered for a little while. The legend of Dennis Houston. Noah Brown was another one I remember from recent years.
He left and he was better.
And he was somehow better. Yeah. Racy McMath is on this roster, Sean.
That guy just gets around.
McMath.
Out of Nashville into Dallas. Love that.
He just loves it. Wow, they have a tight end named Princeton Fant. Is that Noah Fant's brother? Anywho, yeah, I'm not expecting much from Flournoy, but you never know. He could be a preseason standout and make the team and be a reasonable threat in the offense. But I mean, these are likely cut guys here towards the end of the list here. Trey Tucker, I had on my roster for a little bit last year. I think he's a quality little slot receiver. I just don't know in that offense with that quarterback right now. I don't see a lot of fantasy upside here.
Yeah.
But I do think he's a good player, and I think the kick return rules will benefit him significantly this year. I think he's going to be a really good kick returner. So something there.
You mean they don't want Jacoby Myers returning?
Yeah. Yeah, I don't know about that. I don't think that's the play.
Just lateral to the other team? No?
Yeah, that was bad. That was one of the worst, the worst things. Then you got Darius Davis, who is basically what feels like Trey Tucker on a different team on the Chargers. I think he's just going to be a kick returner as well.
And then some fucker named it's just Casey.
So I ran out of characters, Sean. So you only get 200 characters. It's Casey Washington, who I originally, when I was looking at the list, it said C. Washington. So I immediately thought of Cornelius Washington. It was not Cornelius Washington. It's Cornelius Johnson. I don't even know where I came up with Cornelius Washington. I don't even know if that's a player, but it's Casey Washington. He was the number 187 draft pick for the Falcons. He's just kind of one of those camp rookies. We'll see what happens kind of a thing. But none of these guys seem to be likely to make this team at the cut candidates for sure. So let's go to tight end. We got Trey McBride at the top. Definitely the belle of the ball here. I wasn't super high on McBride coming out. I actually kind of was down on him based on consensus rankings. I just didn't love him. That being because I just thought there's so many other tight ends as well in recent years that I liked more. But he really played well last year. Completely blew my expectations, out of the water. So, I think he finished tight end. Let's see. So he had 106 targets, 81 catches, 825 yards, and 3 touchdowns. But he really turned it on at the end of the season, midway end of the season. Had a 14 target game, 95 yards and a touchdown, 131-yard game in week 10 against the Falcons. And then against the 49ers, a quality defense, he had 10 catches for 102 yards as well. So, I mean, he definitely broke out last year. And he seems to be the projected guy, and there's no real other threat at the tight end position on this team. So I feel really good about McBride heading into this year. Outside of Marv, it is kind of a hodgepodge of Dortch, Michael Wilson. So there's not a ton of other target competition that's proven. So I think McBride's gonna be pretty good again, man. Where do you have him?
He's top 5 tight end for me this year. I like him a lot.
All right.
I think I don't see. I think like the consensus is like with Marv coming in, like he's going to take like a back seat, but like there's still targets to go around. Like it's not like just because one guy comes in, doesn't mean he's going to drop like at all. Really, like I think I've got him at 125 targets at the tight end position. That's elite. As far as like,
he made 106 last year, and he wasn't even a full-time player to start the year. So
yeah,
it seems very likely.
Yep.
Yeah, I'm a big McBride fan.
I like him a lot. I think we'll see like touchdown upside wise. Like he is yet to be a guy that seems like he's either been featured in the red zone or has been able to like earn targets there. So that might be something that caps him just from being like at the top of the tight end list. But like if he starts catching touchdowns, like he is tight end 1 overall upside to me.
Yeah, I mean he's one of the few tight ends that I've seen recently like that can stretch the field down the seam, block. He does a little of everything. He gives me I don't want to say George Kittle vibes, but like there is something there in terms
he's doing what Dallas Goedert wishes he was doing in an offense.
Pretty much. Yeah. It's a pretty good way to put it. I just think there's a really well-rounded element to his game right now. I don't want to say he's even close to as good of a blocker as Kittle, but there's he's one of the tight ends that if he catches the ball and strips off 30 yards after the catch, I would not be surprised.
First guy is not bringing him down.
Right. So I'm a fan. I think this is obviously it was a great 3rd round draft pick by Vince in 2022, and this is a clear-cut number 1 on this team. The trio here, depth guys, I think there's a solid mix of some upside here with Noah Fant maybe rebounding, perhaps in a different offense that has been known to utilize tight ends in some capacity. Well, not really so much with, I think is the Washington offensive coordinator is now the coach there, I think, or something like that.
In Seattle?
Yeah. Isn't it the UW guy? So, I mean, they weren't like super big on tight ends, but they did have a couple guys drafted over the last few years. But I just think there is some level of hope for Fant as a number 2 tight end. So I'm a fan of that. And then of course, JT Sanders, I think I once again, like this is actually kind of going back to the McBride thing pre-draft. I wasn't super huge on JT Sanders
either,
but I wasn't super huge on McBride either. So there is a chance that it works out in a similar fashion. But I don't think there's going to be a whole lot from Sanders to start the year, and not really usable for a little while. But Fant should be the number 2 here.
Yeah, there were only like 2 tight ends, maybe 3 tight ends in this class that I would have even considered drafting, and Sanders was not on it for me. But
I was much lower than consensus on him, but
yeah.
I still think it was a good value pick for Vince's team. I mean, obviously, I think they got him in the 3rd round. I think, if I want to say 403, so that's phenomenal value.
Yeah.
So like you can't possibly pass that. Like there's no way I would have passed on him in the 4th if I had a pick there. So, but yeah, he's young. He's 21. He's got the size. He's got the athleticism. I just don't know if he'll like ever really reach an elite kind of upside or anything like that. But he could be a very solid player in a little while. So I think Fant will be the number 2 for this team, and then Gesicki. I don't really know what to do with Gesicki anymore. I don't think he's droppable. This is a very interesting tight end depth chart. You got Gesicki, Tanner Hudson, the legend of Drew Sample, Tanner McLaughlin, a rookie draft pick, and then Eric All. So they have like 6 guys that like all really are in the same like boat as far as like overall like where they stand right now. So like I don't know what they're gonna do at that position. It seems like Gesicki will be the first guy to get like a chance, probably just based on tenure in the league. But who knows what happens. That's why I like Eric All so much, because like I think there's a chance he could just get in there.
Yeah, I mean, if Gesicki is playing a lot over Burton as far as being on the field, I would consider keeping him, just because if you're catching, or if you're on the field with Burrow, like you're probably going to get the ball, because he does like throwing to the tight end.
Yeah, they just never really have any talent there.
It'll be so easy to know, like you're either going to know or you're not, like if he's going to be worth keeping before even the season starts. So watch preseason, see if he's out with the ones. If he's not out with like the ones over Burton, then.
But did you see that they re-signed Hakeem Butler, Sean?
Yeah, but he's a wide receiver now. He's not a tight end anymore.
He shouldn't be a tight end anymore. But that being said, I
just
wanted to say the words Hakeem Butler on the podcast one more time.
Have you seen his UFL highlights?
Oh, they're insane. But he's
great.
About this much separation every time, Sean.
Yeah, it's fine.
So I don't.
It's all good.
He's a cam body right now. But anywho,
yeah,
that's gonna wrap up the Lionheads. So I want to get, Sean, your prediction for the Lionheads this season. Where do they finish? What do you think? So power rankings, I believe, have at 5.
His team, it's so like when I look at his team, it's so easy to me to say like he is a high-end wide receiver away from being like one of the favorites to win.
Mm-hmm.
I think that's pretty easy. He's got the capital, so
that's really the only thing they're missing.
It wouldn't surprise me if he really is like, all right, let's just fucking go for it. If he just pulls the trigger and just kind of like blows that draft capital for a wide receiver. So that wouldn't surprise me. But just knowing what we know now, I would say 4 to 5, maybe like 3, 4, 5 range, like right in there.
And I think that's probably where I got to look at the Dynasty or Dynabook lines again, but I'm pretty sure that's kind of he was not far off from the top, 2 to 5 teams. Like they're all in the grouping, perhaps in that range. And I think this team, based on the last year, I mean, he just missed the playoffs, had a terrible schedule last year, 3rd most in points. The team really didn't get worse this offseason. I think Bijan will only get better this year. So, I mean, I can't imagine that he's not in the top 4 or 5 in points at least. So to me, he's a playoff team based on that. And then, of course, if he does, I think as we were looking through the running backs, a little eye-opening, say, okay, he's got some depth here now at the running back position, 4 really quality backs. Perhaps there's a trade out there, to get a top guy, pair him with one of the, Demario Douglas or Dontavian Wicks or somebody in that range and try to, upgrade maybe at the receiver position. Maybe there's something out there. But that being said, even the team as it stands, I still think it's a really solid team, and there's a good amount of depth at almost every position, which is what you really need to win in this league. So, I mean, I think I would put him in the 4 and 5 slot too. I mean, but I think there's absolutely a chance that this team is playing very well, early in the season, get to mid-season, get to the trade deadline, make a trade, a big trade or something like that during the year, use some draft capital if you need to. I think this team could really win it all. If these running backs, really push for, the top 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 spots, I think they can. It's gonna be crazy. So I think it's gonna be a good team. And I just think that 2 years in a row of just trash scheduling, I think it's gonna rebound this year. So I'm looking forward to watching. This is one of the teams I actually truly am interested to see how they start the year and if it's going to be a hot start or another slow type deal.
And because their points matter too, he's got 3 really good defenses and Justin Tucker on his team too.
That's true. Actually, I don't know where. I thought I had the DSTs on here. I guess I don't. Well, because as I was going through this, he had the 3 defenses. If from a year-to-year basis, who do I want to have as defenses? He has them all basically. And I wanted to mention that on the podcast, but I guess I just did not. I have Dan's on here, but not his.
Ravens, Steelers,
and Bills.
Yeah.
So those are, if you gave me every year, what defense do I want? Those are probably the ones I'm looking for usually. So that's pretty nice. And he's got Justin Tucker, who has never really been a disappointment at the kicker spot. I think he had some interest. I think he had a no 50-yarders or 1 50-yarder last year, but he was electric inside 50 yards. So, I mean, he's going to be great. He's got to be getting old now. What is he at? He's 35. So he's got time. He's good. Anywho, that's going to do it for the Lionheads. Let's go to the Plague now, led by GM Dan Schwartz. Finished 3rd last year, or I'm sorry, this is his overall record since 2018. So 48 and 33. And I should preface this by going back to Vince's team, because I didn't mention that this was from 2018 on, was this win-loss percentage. So that's what Sleeper has available to us. So 48 and 33, which is the 3rd best over the last 6 years. He's made the 6th most transactions with 297. Last season, he finished 4th in points and had the 2nd hardest schedule. So he managed to, fight through a lot of adversity last year with all the scheduling that he had. So a good overall season. Once again, falling short in the playoffs. Dan's team has just the 1 championship in 2011, the league's first year, and has since had 3 runner-up finishes, 2 back-to-back finishes in recent years. I can't remember which years they were exactly, but a lot of close but not quite type of deals for the Plague in recent years. And Sean, we're going to get to find out after doing this team review, do we think it's going to be another similar finish for him this year, or do you think this is the year that he can actually win it all? So let's start with the quarterbacks. And this has historically been one of his best units over the last, since Josh Allen's been drafted. Allen is a stud. He's not coming out of the lineup literally ever, unless there's some crazy injury or something. Matt Stafford, do we need to talk about Josh Allen too much? Even with the receiver groom not looking as good, I just can't imagine he's not in the top 3.
He's QB2 for me, but I think he's been the QB1 in our league the last 2 years. So
yeah, I mean, I just have a really hard time there's no real discussion to be had here. He's a stud. He's going to have another quality year as long as he's healthy.
And honestly, I don't really mind the offense that's around him either. I think it's good enough. So
yeah, I think they're fine. I mean, and there's upside too. I mean, there's a lot of unknown, but there is more upside than has been on the team in recent years with the Coleman, with Shakir might being a bigger role with Samuel. I think they're decent. They're not bad. Stafford is I would call him the initial backup here, probably on this team. It's kind of a hodgepodge there Danny Dimes, who knows? I mean, I don't know. There's a lot of uncertainty with Daniel Jones, but let's go back to Stafford for a minute. Stafford, let me pull up his numbers.
A lot of yards, not a lot of touchdowns last year.
That is correct. 24 touchdowns, 11 picks, just about 4,000 yards. He finished quarterback 15 and had a whopping 65 rushing yards. So, and we all know that he's not a runner. So he is going to be a statue. He's not going to do a whole lot in the rushing game at all. But that being said, he's got two excellent receivers to throw to. Parkinson should help at the tight end position. I mean, I can't imagine the touchdown numbers are this low again. I feel like it's got to go up maybe, but if you look historically, like other than that 41 touchdown season, there hasn't been a whole lot of 30s. It's been a lot of 20s, so maybe it's the same.
I still think this is going to be a very run-dominant team once they get near the goal line, so it really wouldn't surprise me if he's in like the low to mid-20s again. But like he's right in that like Aaron Rodgers, Kirk Cousins zone for me, like we were talking about earlier. I think they're all pretty interchangeable, and that makes for a solid QB, like backup QB that's going to have flash weeks when he hits like Cooper Kupp for 2 touchdowns in a week or throws for 400 plus yards, which I'm sure he'll do a few times this year.
Maybe I was thinking about this after you kind of group those together. Can we get a Dynabook line for combined rushing yards for Rodgers?
Above or below 0?
Well, so 65 for Stafford last year. I'm like maybe 125 total for the three of them.
I statted out all the rushing for quarterbacks too. So let me.
Oh God, help us! Why'd you do that?
Because I'm.
Just put 0 for these guys. Like, who cares? Like, yeah, I get Jaden Daniels, I get the runners, but like, come on, for these guys, give them 0.
Stafford, I've got 25 rushing attempts for 72 yards.
That's pretty much what he did last year.
I've got Kirk Cousins 30 rushing attempts for 30 yards. So that's a 1 YPC for everybody keeping track of them. And I've got Aaron Rodgers 25 for 90. So
the thing is, Rodgers was mobile at one point in his career. The other guy's not really.
Yeah, he'll at some point in the year like do like a naked bootleg and run for like 10 yards. And that's gonna just absolutely
He had 94 in his last season with the Green Bay. So like it's not it anymore. Beginning of his career, he was running a lot.
I might have been a little friendly. If it's like 25 for 50 coming off the Achilles, obviously it's not going to make that much of a difference in his total stats, but it wouldn't surprise me.
Well, James, if you're out there listening, I'd be interested in a Dynabook line for this. I might actually bet it.
So is that between the three of them, 60, so 192 that I have between? So you guys want to do like an over-under of like
170 something?
170?
Yeah. That'd be fun. I'd bet on that just for the fun. Like anytime I see them run at all this year, I'd be like, no, bet the under.
Run, you old fuck.
Fall down. It would be so fun. All right, going back to the quarterbacks here. Yeah,
can we put Derek Carr in there too?
Hold on a second. Let's look at these numbers.
It's bad. It's really bad.
I don't want to see it.
I've got Derek Carr 33 for 60.
He had 40 last year.
Yeah.
Wow. Yeah, his numbers are trash on the ground too.
I will. In his defense, Taysom Hill comes in and runs the ball for him.
Yeah, he doesn't need to do it. Like
he's not really asked to do it.
Now, running or quarterbacks that actually can run the ball a little bit. Danny Dimes, he does face plant sometimes, but he can move way better than people think.
He was the quarterback 9 in 2022.
I still forgot about that. Honestly, that's crazy.
Go. Every other year he's been in like the low 20s. So
it was, not ideal.
But he's coming off an ACL and a neck injury, so we'll see how it goes. I doubt he plays the entire year, even if he's not hurt, because they don't want him to get hurt. It's going to be the Russell Wilson scenario all over again because of the guarantees in his contract.
That is pretty wild. And Drew Lock's there.
And Drew, he's going to play.
He's got to play at some point.
And from the passes that I've seen on Twitter and the internet, like he's trying to kill Malik Neighbors in training camps.
Yeah, there was a report from a day ago from ESPN saying that Daniel Jones is struggling with the deep ball early in camp.
Yeah.
He's been underthrowing the deep ball every time, so not ideal. Yeah, he's just a body on this team, but he's not going to play too much here. So.
What week do you give the over/under on Malik Neighbors just chucking his helmet when he gets to the sideline?
4 or 5. They got to get through a few games first.
Sorry, are you caught up on the Hard Knocks offseason?
I've watched them all up until, well, there's one tomorrow, I guess.
Did you find it really weird that all the questions, and maybe it's just the ones that made it to air, but all the questions that they were asking Neighbors compared to the other receivers were, how are you going to handle
it was like character
things aren't
things
going your way? And then the other receivers were like, man, you're a great guy. We'd love to have you. And like they ended up drafting Neighbors.
Yeah.
It's so weird.
And I don't think I saw any, like on the team visit or anything, like the owner wasn't in the room. It wasn't like, the whole thing is just strange. Like I don't know what that front office is doing. I mean, like I don't hate what, like obviously Neighbors is probably the right pick. Maybe you could argue Odunze maybe at that point, but I mean, I don't know what they're doing there.
It's not even the pick. It's like the question, like the line of questions, like what do you do?
Like the questions didn't make sense, and then for like the second half of the episode was like all about them trying to trade up for May, and it was like, okay, well you didn't really have a plan either. Like it's like you had like 3 options of plans, but you weren't convicted on any, like you weren't like strongly feeling any of them, and your owner didn't really seem to know anything either. So like the whole thing was very strange. You would think, the day before the draft, like you would have some idea of what you're doing, but it seemed like they were still toying with the ideas right till the end.
So I will say Joe Shane's son, when he asked him who he should take,
make that guy the GM.
Nailed the draft, I will say.
He was like, just take the best player.
He named the first 5 picks before.
Yeah, he did. Yeah, like it's pretty impressive.
Good for him.
All while throwing a football on his dad's couch. It was funny.
There you go.
And then Deshaun Watson to round out the group here.
I have no idea what to do with Watson. He's such a. I went based off of his Pro Football Reference history, like what he did in his games last year, and like he statted out as like quarterback 15 for me, and there's no way I'm taking him as quarterback 15. Not after.
I mean, he would have to be like a 20s kind of guy for me at this point.
And a lot of that comes down to rushing because like.
Right. And he hasn't really done a lot of that recently. Like that, the last time he rushed the ball in any capacity was 2020. So it's like I just like it's his numbers are crazy on here. Quarterback finished 5-5-5, 271, 35, 35. So it's like there's some, I think there's a middle ground there, but it's just a matter of, does he play all the games? He seems like he's hurt a lot. I don't know.
It wouldn't surprise me if he ended up being like the quarterback 2 for Dan this year, as far as like where he finishes.
Right.
But I have no faith in Watson to do.
I would rather start Jameis Winston.
I think he's like on the same level of like when Cam Newton blew out his shoulder, like in the same. Like I don't know if he's gonna be able to do it anymore.
Yeah, I'm not feeling it.
You know what? The Browns deserve it after what like how they handled all that. So
yeah, I mean they gave him $50 million for no reason. Yeah. All right. Speaking of more Browns, let's go to the running back. Talk about Nick Chubb and Jerome Ford. So everybody in the league knows I love Nick Chubb. That's well done.
You find me somebody that doesn't love Nick Chubb,
dude. I did, and I still don't know if it's real or not because I haven't researched it or not. But there was like some video of him like recently squatting like 900 pounds,
600, yeah,
like some ridiculous number. And I'm like, I don't think that's good for the rehab process. But I mean,
it's impressive, but it's not like he's not cutting on a football field.
But like, why did anybody let him do that? Like,
do you think anybody in that front office or coaching staff is going to tell Nick Chubb what he can and can't do?
I guess. I mean, you make a good point, but at the same time, bro.
He is like the North Star of that team. Nobody is telling him, like,
he's so good.
Maybe the doctors. That's it. And if they cleared him to do it, he's fine. He's going.
He's got to be in my Mount Rushmore for running backs. Like, I love him. He's so good. He is the best second level runner I've ever watched. Like, he makes people miss like 3 seconds before it happens. Like it is unbelievable what he can do. I mean, he's averaged his average yards per carry is like 5.6 something. Like it's just absurd. I actually need to look it up because he's played for so long. He's been up until this year. He has been very healthy. Nick Chubb, Pro or Football Reference. His average is 5.3 for his career in 77 games. I mean that he's just incredible, and I'm not going to bet against him when he comes back. I'll tell you that.
Yeah, he's so hard to figure out just because.
I mean, this year it's going to be tough. It's just who knows, man.
I statted out 12 games.
So yeah, I mean that's kind of where I'd put him. Like if he came back week 5-ish.
So I've got him.
That would be he got hurt in week 2 last year, so it would be a full year at that point.
I gave him 4.2 yards per carry, which coming off of that knee injury is insane. But given he was 5 pretty much every other year before that,
yeah. If he finished at 4 or 5, that'd be one of the best rebound years of all time. I mean, that's crazy.
So he's running back 38 for me right now.
I just hope he can come back at a reasonable level. I mean, obviously he's going to be 29. He's got this major injury. I just hope he looks somewhat the same because he was so fun to watch. So that being said, we have Jerome Ford on the list as well. You know, Ford didn't really look all that impressive last year in the role. Like he had some decent games, but you know, on a per carry basis, he was not very good. And I think he's just a guy. So, you know, for this team, I think you're basically just your Jerome Ford, Nick Chubb is your whatever you're wanting running back slot. And then after that, Sean, there's not a lot on this roster. I'm a little concerned. And when I say a little, I'm a lot concerned. There's not a lot going on here. You know, Antonio Gibson projects. I mean, him and Dobbins maybe project as the 2.
Well, Dobbins is the 1 right now in training camp with Edwards out.
Okay, well there you go. So then he seems like the shoe-in for the 2.
So
then
that's good. That's a saving
for now.
For now, AJ Dillon's in the best shape of his life.
He always is.
So that's great.
He always is.
Denaric Prince is apparently the backup right now in Kansas City.
That's what I've been saying. I mean, there's just so many. And then, I mean, at the bottom of the list, we have the wily old veterans, Dalvin Cook,
reserved retired list.
Yeah, exactly. It might as well just be cuts at this point. I mean, it's Sean. I don't know if this room is going to be good enough. I think this is the major detractor for the. I mean, we're talking about, does this team make the playoffs? Does this team, you know, win a championship? I still think there's a lot, obviously, that we have to get to on this team for positives to get them into the playoffs, but this is not a championship running back room, Sean. I really don't believe that.
If you're Dan and somebody wanted to take a flyer on like Dobbins for the upside, and they offered him like a starting flex type player.
I mean, would it have to be a running back, or you're just like any flex player, like a wide receiver, doesn't matter?
Preferably running back, just because like you kind of need.
I just don't know who you're going to trade. Let's do some analysis here. Hard-hitting analysis on the PHU Dynasty podcast. Let's go to keep trade cut, and we're going to go to rankings, and we're going to type in Dobbins, and we're going to see who's value adjacent, because I'm curious.
Somebody offered him. I know who everybody has, so I don't want to like be like they should trade, but like. I'll just say somebody off of my team. If I like Devin Singletary.
I mean, you have to, I think. You have to. I mean, you know, at least he's going to be the guy getting most of the carries. Like, I think this team just needs touches at the running back position. And I'm not going to bet on Dobbins getting the touches because, frankly, he's never done it. So I would rather take Singletary there for sure. So he's ranked 199 on this list, which is value adjacent to Bucky Irving, Tyler Algier, Wan'Dale Robinson, Jalen Hyatt, Tucker Kraft, Rico Dowdle. So it's not a lot of cool stuff going on there. But I mean, maybe maybe, like, would Scavelli trade Bucky Irving for J.K. Dobbins? Probably not. Like, I mean, it's tough. It's really tough. I don't think you can get a reasonable running back here.
I will say I would be more inclined to, like, if I'm gonna like offer him like a running back or something, like I think I would be more interested in like Keith Mitchell, just as like a
Yeah, I
fly.
mean, Mitchell's got upside for sure. I mean, I love them coming out.
He's gonna start on the pup.
Yeah, he blew
probably
his
not gonna
ACL,
play
I think, right?
until November, probably.
Yeah.
So
I mean, by that point he could be helpful for this team, but it's just too. I mean, I think
you gotta start out.
Yeah, you got to make the playoffs too. Like this, I don't even know if this running back room could help. I mean, obviously he's got top end upside that we'll get to, but this is just scary, man. I just don't know how you improve this without losing some of the value you have at the positions that are going to get you, like your elite guys. Like I just don't know how it happens.
Yeah.
Anywho, so Antonio Gibson, he's going to be the third down back, it seems like, for the Patriots. Some sort of scat role, out of the backfield. I don't think he's going to be much of a fantasy option. I mean, maybe for this team, he might have to be RB2 at some points. I mean, just based on what we have here, but I would not really be too excited about him this year. AJ Dillon is very likely going to be the number 3. I mean, unless you don't like Marshawn Lloyd.
We'll see if he fumbles in the preseason.
That's going to be actually this.
Tell you a lot.
Is there going to be a better team to watch than the Packers in preseason, just with like all the talent they have? Like, I mean,
I'm interested in the Bills and the Patriots.
Bills is a good one. Bills is a good one. I think Pittsburgh too, with like Roman Wilson. That'll be a fun one.
I
want to see Justin Fields too.
Yes, Fields. Yes. Their wide receivers, I already know how. I have a good idea of how that's going to go.
Like we don't know how it's going to. Yeah, we don't.
Arthur
Smith need to know.
He's going to play the hits.
He's going to go into the jukebox and play the top 40. He's just
this crowd seems like it's ready for a little bit of Van Jefferson tonight.
Van Halen Jefferson. Here we go, baby. Let's get to Panama.
Let's make these people jump.
It's so funny. All right. So, anywho, let's go. So, I mean, like, Deneric Prince seems like he's the 2. I know we mentioned that a little bit earlier. So, yeah. I mean, I think that was a nice little pickup there.
I will say if there's a fun name on this list, I think it's Ali, just because if anything happens to Derrick Henry, I think he's kind of that fill-in in that role.
I don't think it's Justice Hill.
No. And like we said before, Keith Mitchell's not coming back right away. So we'll see that, because I liked him. I liked him as a prospect coming in.
I think he's decent. And then you got the ghost of Alexander Madison, because he stinks.
Fighting Dylan Lobby for RB2.
Like Dylan Lobby is getting all the press, and Madison is just a dude basically at this point. Which
just a guy being a dude.
Just a guy being a guy. Patterson. Patterson's a fun one.
Cordell Patterson will have at least one fantasy relevant week this year.
Dan has to pick which one it is and start him in his RB2 slot. He has to be in the RB2 slot that week.
He probably is the return guy.
I'm thinking I would bet every dollar I had he's the return guy.
I don't see why you would bring him in if he wasn't, and then he's like a nice.
This is Arthur Smith we're talking about, though.
Yeah, he loves his guys.
The thing is, Calvin Austin projects very well to that spot as well, so I don't know what they're going to do. And then you got Dalvin Cook, and then Kareem Hunt's not on the team, and then Jerick McKinnon's not on the team. So
cut.
Don't think we could talk about those at all. So let's get to a room that's actually fun to talk about. The wide receivers. This is a good group of wide receivers, no doubt about it. Justin Jefferson, obviously, top end talent here. Really, he's kind of in the Josh Allen category for me. Like, I mean, I guess he also is facing uncertainty around him. I think it's more important to talk about the quarterbacks here more than anything, probably.
Yeah, JJ McCarthy looks fucking awful.
Yeah, he's missed some throws from what I saw.
It's bad.
But did we not know that he was going to be a slow starter? Like I feel like This is exactly what I expected. Like I knew he wasn't going to come out fucking dropping dimes his first few practices. Like I
Yeah,
knew that wasn't going to happen.
I'm beginning to believe more and more that Darnold's probably going to be the starter all year.
I think it's a minimum of half the season at the very minimum.
Yeah, which
is fine. That's what he needs.
Let's see.
I mean,
I'm not as low on Darnold as like other people. I'm not high on Darnold, but
I mean, fantasy wise, I'm not touching Darnold, but
no. But I mean, I dropped Jefferson. Normally would probably be my wide receiver 1. He's my wide receiver 4.
Yeah, I mean,
this year. So
what did you stat him out like? I'm curious, like 1,500, 1,400,
109 catches for. Oh wait, no, sorry, that I'm looking at a different player. 113 for 16, 10, and 8 touchdowns.
Yeah, I mean that's pretty damn good. I'll take that anytime.
I believe in the head coach and I believe in Jefferson. That's good enough for me to get him his stats this year.
And he was getting stats last year too with terrible quarterbacks. So I mean, I'm not worried. He's quarterback proof to me. Yep. Next on the list, DK Metcalf, just rock solid wide receiver over the last 5 seasons. He's going to be the one again. He's going to be the guy in this offense. He finished last season with 1,100 yards, 8 touchdowns. Pretty much that's kind of his average for his career anyway. I guess, Tyler Lockett and then the emergence of I'm blank, Jackson Smith and Jigba will probably eat a little bit into some of these touches overall. But I'm not knocking Metcalf down my rankings this year. I think he's in that 15-ish range again at the very least. And then
mid wide receiver 2 for me. So,
and I think that's what everybody expects. And that's probably exactly what you're going to get. And he's been a rock solid, never really been hurt kind of guy. You can draft him with confidence and redraft and not worry about him. And then for this team, just a rock solid, second option to Jefferson. Next guy on the list, Davante Adams. He's got an interesting quarterback situation, to say the least. And I love Davante Adams. He is great. He is a top 5-3 receiver or something like that. And, just talent-wise, he's so good. He's getting a little old. However, he didn't show any signs of that last year, really, to me. He still looked like the same old Davante Adams. I am definitely a little concerned about the quarterbacks here, though. I feel like it's going to be. I would not be surprised if he was trying to get traded at some point before the deadline. Like he seems like the kind of guy that's just sick of losing, and he's getting old and he wants to win, and it's not going to happen this year. I don't know what happens.
Can you just imagine all of these people doing their redraft leagues, and then right before the season starts, the Jets trade for Davante Adams?
Oh my God!
Just Garrett Wilson just go. He's going so high.
Oh, it would be a huge nutcracker for sure. That would suck a lot. I was thinking about that, and I was like, man, if the Steelers really wanted to push it this year, like the Steelers would be a great landing spot. I mean, man, he seems like a perfect Steelers receivers, route running extraordinaire, perfect fit. I just don't know. They're not going to trade him now. Like there's no point of Oakland trading him now. Mm-hmm. But, if they're not playing well towards the middle of the year, I could definitely see him being a guy on the move. And maybe for the better for fantasy. I mean,
for sure. I mean, for him and everybody else on that roster too, because I mean, like he's been at like 170 to 180 targets the last 2 years, which is
it's insane.
It's an enormous amount. Like he's definitely he's just because of the quarterback play the last couple of years, he's living on volume.
I mean, he's had 150 targets in 6 of the last 7 years. I mean, that's just so much workload. It's just crazy.
Yeah,
it is so much work.
Only been, what has he been like? Catching like 50 to 60% of those targets just because of how bad.
Yeah, like 100 here, 115 there, 100 there, or something like that.
It's tough, man.
Very interesting. Yeah, I mean, so for this year, I mean, obviously for Dan's team, we're probably looking at another like wide receiver 2-ish finish. Yeah, but it's just a matter of like how high.
I've got him on the lower end of wide receiver 2 just because I don't think he's necessarily quarterback proof at this point compared to like Jefferson. So
no,
got him just a bit lower. It's touchdowns, man. I just don't see them throwing a lot of touchdown passes.
I don't either. He only had 8 last year, and I feel like that's kind of his ceiling again, to be honest.
Yeah.
And they got more red zone help too with Bowers coming in, so I think.
Yeah, and like, are we gonna keep projecting him for 170, 180 targets when they keep like I think we both like Myers as a wide receiver. I think he's a solid wide receiver.
He's fine.
We both like Bowers. I liked Michael Mayer coming in.
I still like Michael Mayer.
We've both already said that we like Trey Tucker.
Yeah, I mean, like, it's not like they don't have talent.
We like everybody on this team, so it's hard to.
I like freaking Zeus in the backfield too. I like Zamir White. I'm a fan.
Yeah.
I just think they're going to end up in some bad game scripts again this year, and they're going to have to throw a lot, and he's going to catch balls. He's going to be good.
Yes, but I like their defense though.
Their defense is good now.
That's the other thing. Like,
they're actually talented.
Are they going to be in any shootouts? Or are there going to be a lot of like high-scoring games? I mean, you never know. It's the NFL, but
they got into shootouts last year, and then like that game against the Chargers, like 63-30 or some shit. Like
their formula to win is going to be possession, run, and play defense. Like that's how they're going to win their games.
Yeah, I mean, to me, if their offense works, it should look like Jake Delhomme Panthers, like run, play action, and make it work with some crazy, flex out plays and stuff. But who knows if they end up doing that or not. I think it's Luke Getsy is their coordinator, so I don't love that.
Ew.
Yeah, so I mean, it's scary. And then Antonio Pierce, this is his first full year as an actual coach too. So, and I saw that they hired Marvin Lewis as their assistant head coach.
Wow, that's a lot of coaching experience.
I mean, it really is actually. So that helps somewhat. Anywho, moving on, Michael Pittman, part of the. Wait, Michael Pittman? Yeah, he was part of that trade. Oh, so this is the trade tree discussion, Sean.
Yes.
You want to get into that?
Yeah. So before the pod, I was trying to think of like a fun fact or like trivia thing to do because I've kind of been doing that. But I didn't see anything that I super loved. What I did notice is that there's one player that has been on both of these teams that we're talking about today, and that's Michael Pittman. So Michael Pittman was drafted by the Lionheads in 2020.
Pick 204.
204. And over the years and now on Dan's team. But let's just take a light, brisk jog down memory lane.
Oh, I'm so excited.
So
I can't wait to hear the throw-ins.
Pittman was traded for it was Curtis Samuel, Pittman, and a 2022 first for a 2021 first, Jordan Akins, and then
Anthony Miller?
Anthony Miller?
Oh, that's a great name drop. We're already going. We're off and racing.
First round pick swaps, and then Samuel and Pittman for Anthony Miller and Jordan Akins.
Big yikes there. Okay.
So that's
moving on.
That's a big win for Dustin.
That seemed to work out.
Dustin then trades him to Alex. He trades Pittman a fourth, a 2022 first, a 2023 first for Tony Pollard.
Pittman and 2 firsts, basically.
Pittman and 2 firsts for Pollard, Komet, and our favorite drop.
Hold on, I gotta get the drop. Hold on.
We rehearsed this.
Gosh, I did not rehearse this.
Najee Harris.
There it is.
There it is.
So Pittman and 2 firsts for Najee Harris, Komet, and Pollard. That's not yeah. And then I think the next one is definitely the one that we're gonna talk about because Alex then trades him back to Dustin. So he trades him Jerry Jeudy, Michael Pittman, and Breece Hall.
Wait, sorry, let me preface this. So we had Jerry Jeudy, Michael Pittman, and Breece Hall. Okay, for who?
For Tony Pollard.
Okay.
Cue the clip. Najee Harris.
Najee Harris.
And Elijah Moore.
Oh no. Wait, so the obvious centerpiece is Breece Hall here. So Breece Hall and Pittman and Jeudy for Pollard, Harris, and Moore.
That is correct.
That I don't think that worked out for Alex.
Absolutely shredded in that one.
I don't think that worked out.
Najee Harris.
I have a plan in place.
That plan.
And we keep it going. He was then traded to Tibbs, and this trade was Pittman, Rashad Bateman, Khalil Herbert
Okay.
for Tucker Kraft, a 2024 first, and a 2025 second. Not so bad.
Yeah, that one seems reasonable.
I think I would rather be on the pick side of that one, but I don't think it's bad on either side there, really.
Yeah. I mean, I think that third turned into, or that first round pick turned into, what was Tibbs's first?
It was Scavelli's 2024 first.
So that might have been, I can't remember where that pick
was Xavier Worthy.
Okay. Interesting.
So, there you go. And then the most recent one that just happened, Pittman and Ford for Mark Andrews, Isaiah Likely in a fourth. There we go.
I mean, he's definitely moved around a lot, Sean. There's no doubt about it. the Anthony Miller name drop really got me.
I honestly couldn't even remember who it was. I was like,
that's how irrelevant he is.
So.
That's tough. That is tough out there.
Just getting passed around, man.
Yeah, he's literally been traded 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 times, and he's been in the league for 4 years. So he's basically averaging just over a trade per year. So I'm sure we'll see another one next year. That being said, he came off a pretty damn good last year. His career best, 1,100 yards, 4 touchdowns, 156 targets. His targets have gone up every single year. So he went 60, 61, 129, 141, 156. So he's been the model of health. He's never really missed games. I think he's missed like just 1 or 2 every here and there. He's going to be good again. Like he is the true possession receiver on this team. He's the chain mover. Not really much of a field stretcher, but that's not what they're asking him to do. That's the sacrificial X receivers role usually, which was Alex Pierce, and hopefully Adonai Mitchell is a better version of that. But I feel like Pittman's going to be pretty locked into a similar role and should have a similar output. Hopefully, a few more touchdowns. I did read or I think it was either an interview or some video I watched with Pittman where he says, I've played pretty well, so far in my career, but I really, to get to that next level, to be considered one of the best receivers in the game, I got to start scoring more touchdowns. And that truly is the only knock I have on him. He's never had more than 6 touchdowns in a season. So I'd like to see that.
See that happening anytime soon. Not with Anthony Richardson at quarterback. So
it's just interesting because he has the build for it, like 6'4", 225. Like he should be a jump ball threat.
I don't think it's necessarily been his fault that he's not scoring touchdowns. I think it's the same point I made earlier with Daniels at quarterback. Like, I just think this team around the goal line, why are you even thinking about throwing it when you can just run with Anthony Richardson or Taylor? Like, what?
Yeah, I mean, you have so many options too. Like
Steichen knows like where his bread is buttered. Like he's gonna make the right play call. So
yeah, I mean, I'm all in on Steichen. I think he's awesome.
Yeah, I've only got Richardson throwing 20 touchdown passes this year. So,
but like you said, like he doesn't need to. Like if he can just run the ball,
I have him running for 12.
I mean, hey, that 32 total touchdowns, sign me up.
Yeah,
that works out pretty well. But so, anywho, yeah, I mean, for Pittman, do you see any increase on 4? Do you think he's?
I'm down for 6.
I feel like 6 is career high.
I think he'll be the leader in receiving touchdowns. I just don't think that's
just not significant enough.
Not significant.
Yeah.
That being said, like with Anthony Richardson, I think you're going to see like his possession numbers just kind of climb a little bit. Like your 10.5 yards per catch is probably going to balloon up like a yard just based off of the way that Anthony Richardson plays. So just the efficiency markers, I think, are going to climb just a little bit for pretty much anybody coming back from that offense last year, just because Gardner Minshew to Anthony Richardson, there's just a little more explosiveness in that offense, just a little bit.
Just a tad.
So yeah, I think I'm
excited, man. Too. I think the Colts might be the team I'm most excited to watch. I just feel like they just have so many guys that either I like in some capacity.
Yeah, they just lost a DN today too. Ebicom.
Ebukam. I mean, thank God, I guess that they drafted Latu because that was a pretty big loss for them.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I just feel like there's just so many players, offensively and defensively, that I just like in some capacity. And Chris Ballard has always been like, let's draft athletes. This team is
Big
full of athletes. So, like, I mean, between Downs
Respect it.
and Mitchell and Mo Alley Cox and Jelani Woods and Taylor, like, there's just a lot of people to watch. So, I'm really looking forward to the Colts.
Latu might be the most unathletic player that they've drafted,
which is crazy.
Which he's not unathletic.
No,
he's not a freak.
he is a special pass rusher. I think he's gonna explode at some point. I can't wait to watch him. All right, next on the list, Keenan Allen. So this is a 32-year-old now, coming off a 1,200-yard season, 7 touchdowns in just 13 games for the Chargers. So he missed 4. Still finished as wide receiver 11, which was his best finish since 2017. So there's tread absolutely still on the tires here, I think, Sean. I just worry about his injuries, obviously. I think everybody does. That being said, they have a really good rookie they just drafted that will absolutely compete for the targets here with Moore and Keenan Allen. And frankly, probably profiles the best as the number 1, I would say. I mean, maybe not as a rookie, but he has a lot of talent in Rome Odunze. So I'd have a hard time ranking Keenan Allen this year. I mean, I know if he's on the field, he's going to be playing well.
Let's start with this. How many targets do you see him getting?
Well, I got to tell you, Sean, he got 150 last year, and it's not going to be that.
No, he is not. He's not the last of the Mohicans healthy on a team where he's getting every single target.
I mean, okay, so he played 10 games in 2022, and he had 89 targets. So I'll say like 90-ish. That's 90 to 100, maybe.
That's how many he has this year?
Yeah, sure, why not? I don't really know.
Oh, that's lower than I had it, to be honest.
I just feel like, well, I'm also projecting an injury, which I don't want to do.
Oh, okay, yeah.
So I just don't think there's no way he's going to stay healthy this whole year.
That's fair. I definitely like, just based off like risk rating, like I would definitely move him down from where I have him. The problem is that I have Keenan Allen at wide receiver 42 already.
Okay, wow.
So
damn. Alrighty then.
He's just not going to live in the same volume that he has the last couple of years. DJ Moore is there. They've got Rome Odunze. I have him having the most targets on this team. And I still have him a wide receiver 42, just based off of the efficiency, like that he's like just following the trend of like where his efficiency's gone. Like there's no explosiveness there for me. And rookies don't typically throw a lot of touchdown passes. I think this would be an exception for me, where I don't know exactly how many I have Caleb throwing, but I think I have him like around.
I was thinking like 23 or 4, maybe.
I've got Caleb throwing 27.
Okay, so that's higher than I had him too.
Because
I always thought like 23 or something was a good number.
I'm giving him the uniqueness of like no rookie quarterbacks come into this good of a situation with wide receivers before.
Right,
so
and he's going to play opening game.
And I don't like their running game that much, so I gave a lot of their offense through the air. But just coming back to Keenan, like not even accounting for that, like the ball is going to be spread between those 3 guys, and he's just not going to be able to live off the volume that he has the last couple of years with Herbert.
Yeah, so, I mean, I agree. It's hard to project any of these guys to being like a true number 1, where it's like, like we were just talking about with like a Devontae Adams or just a target sponge. I just don't see that happening. So I think he's going to be good. And obviously for this team with the lack of running backs on this roster, he's going to be a flex option because he has to be. There's no other option really. So I think he's going to play a lot for this team. I just got to hope he stays healthy, but that hasn't been very easy to do for him the last couple of years. So just praying for the no injury because I love Keenan Allen too. He's another player I love. So yeah, looking forward to see how the Bears offense looks. Let's go to the next.
I will say one more thing. Sorry, Allen profiles as he'll be the slot when all 3 of them are on the field.
Right, the big slot.
So, and the OC comes from Seattle, and the usage for JSN last year was not something that I was overly excited about. So that was one of the other things that made me a little nervous because, and
Yeah.
I'm not super sure he's on the field all the time on 2 wide receiver sets.
Yeah, I mean, like if it's a 2 wide receiver set and they need somebody to be like a bigger body, I think they would go with like a Rome, or like even it could be Rome and Keenan and
He's also
more drops off.
30. He's also 32. Like you
He's
don't want
old.
him. Yeah, you don't want him. You don't want him out there 100% of snaps.
Yeah, I feel like at this point, if he did play the 100% of snaps, he'd get hurt. Like there's just,
Oh yeah,
which is terrible, but it is what it is. I think at this point.
yeah.
All right, so we're going to Jerry Jeudy, another fun player to talk about in this league usually. He was involved in a couple of trades, but now on the plague, and frankly, I'm not thrilled, and I haven't ever really been thrilled.
I don't like Jerry Jeudy.
I just don't think he's it. I
He's-
think that. Do you remember that Steve Smith like pregame thing with him and Jerry Jeudy from a couple years ago?
Said it all. That was last season.
He's like just a guy, and I was like, I mean, his numbers completely back that up. He's never finished with 1,000 yards. He's never played a full season.
7th percentile in success rate against zone coverage.
That's
in his
embarrassing.
career.
I mean, he's not. He's just never proven anything. I mean, his 2022 season was good. I mean, he had finished 18. Also had 100 targets, 67 catches, 972 yards, and 6 touchdowns. But like, did any of that look impressive to you? Because it didn't to me. Like, I don't remember like, oh, Jerry Judy's popping off the screen this week. Like, I just don't see it. Like, and I don't think it's going to get better in this offense, which is known to be a run-heavy offense. So, I'm surprised. I mean, I guess I'm not totally surprised that the Browns did something like this, but I mean, I can't comfortably start him at all right now. I mean, for this team, you're looking at the 2 running backs and very likely Pittman, Keenan Allen, and then maybe Jerry Jeudy. I don't want to start him, but like, who else are you going to start here? Like that's where I'm getting stuck with this team trying to make a postseason push, because if Jerry Judy's in the lineup in the playoffs, I'm not feeling good about it. I'll tell you that. Like, I just don't feel like that's just going to stack up, especially like a team against, let's say the Plague are playing the Lionheads that we're just talking about. If I'm looking at these flex guys, we're talking about Michael Pittman, Keenan Allen, Jerry Jeudy versus Isaiah Pacheco, David Montgomery, and Terry McLaurin. I feel way better about the Lionheads flex players than this. So this team used to be really deep at multiple positions, but I feel like in recent years maybe we've lost a little bit of the depth, and obviously clearly at the running back position, but even at the receiver position, we used to say that his team had crazy depth at receiver, and it's not really that deep anymore. Like, there's still clearly a great number 1, 2, 3, but Pittman is a good 4, of course. But Allen and Jeudy are just not really moving my needle that much anymore. And it's sad because I do like Keenan Allen, but I'm a little scared about this room. And there's some age here too. I mean, obviously Devontae is a little older. I mean, DK is not that old, but I'm not worried about DK, but I am worried about Devontae and Keenan staying healthy. Any other thoughts on Jeudy, or we can just move on?
I don't want to think about him anymore now.
All right, so no more Jerry Jeudy. I'd rather talk about Light the Dortch, Greg Dortch.
Sure.
He's going to play.
Play in the slot, yeah.
He's going to play, and I think he's pretty talented. I just don't think he's a fantasy option, really, but he's a guy I'd love to have in like the last round of best ball leagues.
I really like the Cardinals on offense this year. I think they're
another team I'm excited to watch too.
They're going to be fun to watch. Dortch is going to be fun when he gets the ball. I just don't the volume is just not going to be there.
No. And if it is there, it's going to be like 2 weeks a year that you can't predict. Like, I'm pretty sure he did that last year. He had like a 100-yard game or something. But Xavier Hutchinson, he's a little bit buried as well. Obviously,
don't even remember what team he's on.
He's on the Texans. He actually was one of the guys I kind of liked in last year's draft from Iowa State. He gave me some like Alan Lazard vibes, but now he is pretty firmly buried as like the number 5 or 6 at this point, so not worth really talking about. Probably a cut. Kendrick Bourne, he's in the hodgepodge of New England receivers, veteran receivers.
He's on the pup missing training camp against all the rookie wide receivers and Pop Douglas too. So
Right, not a good start at all. I mean,
great.
he could be a cut candidate as well. Anais Smith, I actually like Anais Smith a lot. I just feel like he's going to be more of a kick returner kind of guy, probably. Maybe find his way into the slot at some point or like manufactured touches. But
I think the third receiver, when they bring in a third receiver for the Eagles, I think that's going to be that sacrificial receiver.
Yeah,
and I think Devontae or AJ Brown are going to move into the slot, from what I've read and what I've kind of gathered about the team. So
I will say, like, there's always like a few players when I'm watching college, like during the season, because I always go back obviously and watch after the season's over, but I watched a lot of Texas A&M this past couple of years, and when it was Achan and him, like the speed level, and I think Smith tore his ACL or had a big injury or something, but they both were like so much faster and better than everybody else. So like I still think there's actually upside here for Smith to actually be like a quality NFL player in some capacity. I don't think it's ever going to be like a true 2 or anything like that, but he is a fast freaking guy, and he should have some role in the NFL at some point. Fantasy wise, I'm not really sure though, but I like the guy. Zay Jones, another Cardinals receiver. He's been getting some reps, in the fourth or third role as well, with him and Wilson kind of battling for the same role.
He's playing behind Wilson.
I've seen, it's usually him as the number two, the number 2X, I should say.
Yeah.
And he's a good veteran guy. Like I think he's just a solid depth play.
He's at like Nelson Aguilar zone to me. He's better
really
than
is.
Aguilar, but like if you have him as like your fourth receiver, you're like, yeah, we're good.
Yeah, like this is a solid 4. And then if somebody gets hurt, like you can throw him out there and not worry. So he's pretty solid. And then Rondale Moore, not really a guy anymore. I guess he's going to be that slot guy probably for the Falcons, manufactured touch guy for the Falcons, kick returner for the Falcons, that kind of thing.
Yeah.
A lot of those, I feel like I've said that a lot about the depth guys on the plague right now. So Dortch, Smith, I guess Kendrick Bourne to some level, Rondale and Anais Smith all are kind of in that category. Not much to talk about there. And then Kadarius Toney, the legend of Kadarius Toney.
Running back. Should we have put him in the running back category?
That would be the best thing for this team probably right now, is if somehow there's a career resurgence at running back.
If you tell me he's a running back tomorrow and you can guarantee he'll get 5 opportunities a game, would you start
handoffs a game? No laterals, no screen passes. He has to be handed the ball.
No passes where the ball can go through his hands into a defender.
No, if the ball leaves the quarterback's hands and is in the air at any point, it's not going to work. It has to be a handoff. But wouldn't that be the worst idea for this team? Because he needs some running backs.
We're talking about like depth and like a little bit of the struggles of like getting older on this team too. And Toney and Dan trading for Toney is like probably the prime example of kind of like where it's been a little tough the last couple of years, because that trade didn't work out. So it was Judy, AJ Dillon, and Kadarius Toney. He traded for.
No.
And he traded away a 2025 first and a 2026 second.
Oh.
And
Albert that trade did not work.
So
that was a let's build depth trade, and it didn't hit.
I know exactly when this trade happened, because I thought about throwing a flyer out there for Kadarius Toney because he was joining the
this was May 16, 2023.
And I was like, maybe I'll throw like a third or something. And then I saw what Dan traded for him. I was like, oh, okay.
That's a lot. I mean, at the time, I guess Judy still had like that quote upside, and he was coming off that good year as well. But man, that doesn't look good in hindsight at all.
Yeah, it's just
that hurts.
It's one that like I can justify in my head at the time, but just looking back, it just didn't work out for him.
Yeah, you can't win them all. Toney, I would cut him at this point. I can't even watch him. Last guy I put JJ because I couldn't fit his whole name, is Jawan Jennings. So another low end blocking receiver, third down guy. Nothing special for fantasy, but I like the guy. He's a good player.
Jawan Jennings on the Niners?
49ers, yes.
Oh, well, yeah. And it doesn't seem like Ayuk's going to get traded, but like if he got traded, like I would honestly consider.
But then Ricky Pearsall takes those probably.
Not in year one, not in Shanahan's system.
I mean, well, here's the thing: is like Jennings he's the big slot in this offense. Like he's a blocker, he's a third down guy, and either way, he's not. I don't.
On
he's 27. I have nothing.
On this team.
This team. On this team changes everything.
Because he doesn't really have that last flex spot. Like I like him better than everybody.
I'll take him over Rondale Moore.
Yeah, I like Keenan Allen, then Jawan Jennings if there's no Ayuk there. That's how I would consider that.
Over Judy?
Yeah.
Oh man, I don't know. Like, at least Judy's like, so he's in the offense. Like Jennings has never been in the offense. Jennings never had a season over wide receiver 80. Sean, he's bad.
He's on the Niners. It doesn't matter.
I guess. Somebody got to catch that ball. I just think Ricky Pearsall. I like Ricky Pearsall.
I do too.
And our bad wide receiver or bad quarterback in college turns into a good receiver. This is our guy. We just talked about this.
Dude, I think I have Ricky as like my wide receiver like 6.
That's pretty high.
Yeah, it was the top 3.
Brian
Thomas, and then him and Ladd. I think were like the next guys.
I'll pull up my rankings again. I'm curious. I had him pretty high
because I was low on both of the Texas guys, and that kind of propped up the white guys.
I had him at 13 on my list, like overall.
Oh, wow. Yeah,
but then I wasn't gonna take him anyway because I had Ayuk. But all right, tight ends coming down the home stretch.
Speaking of old,
a couple old boys here.
Everybody's old.
How old's Kobe Parker? Travis Kelce. Is Kelce 33?
30. He'll be 35 this year.
35 this year.
Yeah.
Dang.
You trade him away, you don't even follow his life anymore. Jeez.
I mean, I follow his life because I have to because he's on TV every 12 seconds.
Everybody follows his life right now.
It's funny. As soon as I traded him, he like turned into like this like pop icon. So I'm happy. I'm happy I don't have to watch that over and over.
Parkinson's not that old. He's 25. Never mind.
Yeah, I was gonna say he's got to be younger, but Ertz is definitely up there. So I mean, Kelce, I think it's gonna be another good year. Like how do you say anything other than 100 targets, 100 catches? Like it feels like he's gonna have another great year again, man. I have a hard. Like, he only had 5 touchdowns last year.
That's not happening again.
I feel like that is not happening, especially with the field being more open with actual good receivers around him now. I mean,
the only thing that concerns me about Kelce is just how many snaps he actually plays.
Like he's old.
If he's sitting out on like every like first and second down, a lot of the times, like it wouldn't shock me. But like, at the same time, like he's going to be in there when they're passing more than likely. I don't know. He's right there with Laporta. Like they're 1 and 2 to me. So,
like to me, like the way his career has gone, how durable he's been, he feels like a Tony Gonzalez type to maybe just last forever. It seems like it. I mean,
he also his best games were in the playoffs last year, so it's not like he was deteriorating.
No,
through the year.
I mean, he missed 2 games last year, but he still finished with 900 yards, 984 yards. I mean, like he's still great, and I don't think I haven't seen anything of him slowing down. That's the big thing. It's like, where has there been any tail off? There hasn't. So I'm all in. I'm still all in. I think obviously for Dan, having Kelce, Jefferson, and Josh Allen alone, those are going to be enough to win you lots of games. It's really like, I think just overall this team is 100% going to be about what happens with this running back situation. There's no doubt about it. I mean, maybe he gets lucky and a couple of those guys hit into bigger roles, but right now it's a lot of handcuffs. It's a lot of guys I'm not excited about, frankly. And then the main guy is injured and coming back from an injury. So, how does that play out for you this year, Sean? Do you think, is this team an actual championship contender? I'm not going to say playoff contender because I think he definitely is that. But is this a championship contender in its current state?
Is he though?
These are the questions, Meg.
I don't think I've handed out 8th place yet, so
Is this the 8th place team?
sure.
Is it though?
I'm gonna go with it just because it's fun to
The
throw out
contrarian pick.
numbers.
Okay.
Is it? Now I'm not being like sarcastic. Is
but
it really though?
the
Because
running back situation does stink. There's no doubt
it's
about it.
it's bad.
Is this running back situation worse than Alex's receiver situation?
Yeah, probably.
I think it is worse because at least Alex has starters.
Yeah, I mean, Alex got Puka.
But he
Like,
has 2 other players though.
I mean, Nick Chubb was the highest ranked running back on this list, and I only have
he's hurt
12 games.
Right. I mean, literally his RB1 as of right now is Jerome Ford, and there's nobody else.
Yep.
So I mean, it's probably at this point it's probably Jerome Ford, J.K. Dobbins, which is crazy.
You could tell me, you could spin me a story of like, well, Josh Allen doesn't have any weapon or not as many weapons now, and like maybe he takes like a small step back. I'm not saying he's not going to be an elite quarterback, but he's not like head and shoulders above the other quarterbacks, like just league winning anymore. Right. So he comes back to the pack a little bit. Jefferson has Sam Darnold throwing him the ball, and it's like an absolute collapse this year. That's not out of the realm of possibilities. And Travis Kelce's
getting old,
and Kelsey's 35.
Yeah, I mean, there's certainly
those are the 3 guys that were like,
yeah, they're
going to win them games.
Right. I mean, if all those don't work, then we have serious issues here.
And Devontae Adams is 30.
Keenan Allen's old as shit.
Keenan Allen's old. Love Keenan. He's old.
We love them all. I love all those guys. Every player we just said: Josh Allen, Nick Chubb.
And your second best quarterback this year might be Deshaun.
Half these players were on my team. Yeah, literally all these players except for Josh Allen were on my team. They're all just old. So, you're old.
Yeah, fuck it. You know what? Give me the elk over this team this year.
Oh my Lanta, here we go.
Here we go.
I wish I had a
Let's go Kentucky Elks.
Oh boy! Yes!
Skip.
Why you tell me why? It's so funny. I love Shannon Schreiber so much. That is a hot take. That is certainly a hot take. The thing is, I can see it. I can see like it's at least in the realm of possibility. Like it's not totally unfathomable. Like it is in the cards. So I don't know. I still think this is good. I think the top end talent will last another year. I just believe that. I think they're too good. And if they stay healthy, Sean, I still think this is going to be like a back end playoff team at the least. I still think Dan is a good enough manager to figure out something at the running back position. I know we're getting close to the season, but there's still more opportunities I think out there with the team.
If he gets like a Kelsey or an Allen injury early, how much, if you are
an Allen injury would be bad.
If you're the Lionheads, how much do you push into the middle for a Jefferson? Because we already said it earlier. We're like,
Sean, I'm sure
receiver.
We'll discuss it, or the guest that we're having on will discuss it when we get to my team. I'm also kind of in the same boat where I would like to have a number 1 like that. I will not be shy. I've definitely thrown out some offers.
Receiver on your team?
Who's the sure bet number 1?
Well, I don't know. We haven't talked about your team yet. Hold on.
All right, so I'll give you the top 3 of my roster right now. It's Ayuk, Nico Collins.
Okay, well, they're number 1s as far as like
on their own team. Yeah, but I'm saying like sure top 10 fantasy wide receiver. I don't think I had one.
You've got guys that are really good at crime.
Yes, I have an unbelievable amount of traffic incidents. It is unbelievable how bad my players drive cars. It is insane.
At least Devon Baker on your team. You're good.
He seems like a guy that's got his head on a swivel. He seems like a jackass too. I got it. George Pickens. Are you kidding me, Sean? I'm waiting for his traffic accident. Are you kidding me? Oh, there's gonna be so many.
Fair enough. You don't have like one of the top 5 guys, but you've got like 3 guys in my top 20.
Yeah, they're like in that like next tier, but like it would be cool to have like a nice one, like a top 10 one. I want a nice thing.
Be a lot cooler if I had that.
Exactly. But you are absolutely right. We do love having some sort of off-season problem. At every off-season, it feels like. I don't get it. I wish my guys would just stay home. That's what I tell myself. It's like in the off-season next year, I'm going to tell them all just stay home. So yes, this team I still think is a playoff team. I'm not going to go to Sean's level, but
Definitely a playoff contender. Yeah.
It's a contender for a playoff spot, but I just don't see a championship right now with the current layout of the team. That's just my opinion. Love to hear y'all thoughts. Actually, I'll put some polls here in the chat for both of these teams for you all to vote on. We'll discuss them next time around. But thank you very much for we've had multiple viewers throughout the 2 hours and 30 minutes we've been on the air. So thanks for sticking around this long. We're gonna do at least 2 more podcasts. We're gonna do next week might be another doubleheader with myself and Sean, and we'll bring in a guest for that one, so y'all don't have to hear us talk about our own teams. So that'll be
Tibbs, right? And then
we're gonna probably do Tibbs last as a
hot
solo,
takes.
and then we could probably throw hot takes onto that one as well.
Yeah,
so
we'll call that one a doubleheader too, because the hot takes could take all night.
You never know what we could get. It could be incredible. And then on 2, I promised it earlier in the year, and I will hold the promise. There will be a debate night with Alex and Vince before the season starts. It might be, during draft week. It might be something like that. But we will
do that at the draft.
I don't know if Alex is going to be there. No, I don't.
Even still, we could just.
But we can virtually do it, of course. I mean, we'll find some way. But that will happen before the season starts. So
it's got to be a night where I can drink.
I think it has to be a night where everybody drinks. That'll be the best part. So I think that'll be a great time. But until next time, thank you for watching the PHU Dynasty podcast, and we'll see you for episode 72 next time.